The princess was on the balcony when a criminal organization shows up and kidnaps her. She starts screaming for help, and the kidnapper tries to knock her out. She just closed her eyes and started hearing the sound of a fight. When she opens them, everyone was passed out on the ground. A masked boy appears behind her and protects her from the remaining bandits, throwing kicks, punches, and slicing through everyone with his sword at the speed of light. He takes her to a hideout because the bandits are searching the whole city for her. But the hideout didn't last long, and they had to jump out the window, flying through the air and everything. When the organization's boss shows up and uses his magic to attack, but the boy blocks it like it's nothing. The dog guy unleashes a blast of magic, but nothing hits the boy or the princess. The boy decides to put the princess to sleep, so she won't see what he's about to do. The henchmen start firing arrows, and he blocks them easily. They rush at him with their swords trying to land a hit, and they're completely useless against this kid. The boy gets bored and decides to strike back, throwing every single arrow right back at the bandits. The Chihuahua wonders who this boy is. What kind of power is this? The boy, even with the girl in his arms, summoned a Rasengan that turns into a spirit bomb. By the time the little dog realized what was happening, he got hit by this insane power. Everyone around starts asking who this boy is and how he took down the organization's boss. To understand that, we need to go back a little in time. In a village far away, a massive dragon appears. When the dragon looks to the side, it sees 3 boys playing rock, paper, scissors. These boys were no ordinary tribe. They're from the Crow tribe. The winner among them would get the honor of fighting the dragon. The dragon tries to intimidate him and gets easily defeated with just one punch. The boy even threw in a little victory dance. Some orcs show up behind his brothers. One of them gets excited, draws his sword and turns the orcs into mincemeat in a matter of seconds. After that little bit of fun, our protagonist, the youngest of this crazy family, asks his dad for permission to go to the capital. His dad asks why on earth he'd want that, since he's already the best martial artist and the best mage in the village at the same time. The MC says hunting monsters just isn't fun anymore. 10 seconds later, a lunatic shows up and attacks his own father. The father blocks every single strike, while lecturing her without losing his cool. Yep, confirmed family of lunatics. While the MC plans his escape, the village chief makes a decision that will change everything. In the council meeting, he announces that his youngest son will be the next leader. The leader has to be the strongest, and this 12-year-old kid captured a dragon on his own, using nothing but his own skills. On top of that, he can use 2 types of magic at the same time, which is supposed to be impossible. Before the council can even process all of this, a man bursts into the meeting screaming for them to come see what happened. When they step outside, they find a pile of dead monsters at the entrance. The leader's sister shows up with the MC's note saying, "Gone to the capital." This isn't a goodbye, it's a sayonara. The father folds the paper and orders them to capture the kid immediately. But the boy had already thought of everything. The corpses he left at the entrance decompose and release poison into the air. That delays the pursuit for hours. 2 days later, his sister, who inherited the family's genius, organizes 3 groups with specific roles and says with that calm little smile, "My brother's plan isn't going to work." During the night, our boy is freezing to death inside a cave. While sipping his hot tea, the warriors find him. They even try to grab him, but the MC dodges everything way too easily. He beats them up one by one without even changing his expression. Then he heads back into the forest to keep running. Back in the village, his sister is racking her brain, trying to figure out how 100 soldiers can't catch one kid. Deep in the mountains, our protagonist thought he had escaped, but these soldiers are like ticks and try to catch him off guard. His friends Nora and Hyungs try everything to catch him, but our protagonist is just out here farming aura while dodging everything. Then the samurai gets the idea to slice the ground, which makes our protagonist slip off the mountain. Everyone thought he fell into the water, but the protagonist was flying with his magic. Sona and Hyungs are shocked to find out he can use magic. The MC says his goodbyes in the air, thanks his whole family for taking care of him, promises to send letters and flies off toward the city. He finally reaches civilization, dirty, 2 days without sleep, and he made it. Suddenly, a guy runs past him grabbing a bag, and by the time he realizes the guy is a thief, it was already too late. The guy called him a fool because he robbed him too. In the blink of an eye, our protagonist was already right next to him. The thief can't understand how he got there so fast, and pulls out a knife. The MC gets behind him and dodges the attacks with ease. The thief is completely lost. Then the protagonist appears behind him and gives him a simple flick, sending the thief flying far away with just that one little hit. Right as the protagonist is picking up the bags from the ground, the guards show up. The boy explains that the other guy is the thief, but when the thief takes off running, our protagonist is the one who gets arrested. He's wondering how on his first day in the city, he managed to end up in jail. The guard asks for his ID, but the protagonist has a trick up his sleeve. He uses spatial magic to grab someone else's document. When the guard sees the ID, he apologizes on the spot, because the boy grabbed a noble's document. He's released immediately. Walking through the city, he spots a shop and tries to buy some food, but when the old man sees the super rare coin, he goes into shock and says he doesn't have enough goods to make change for it. The MC decides to leave. The day went on, the sun went down, and the protagonist had nowhere to sleep. He has money, he just doesn't know how to use it.
Today is not a good day.
The troublemaker approaches, along with two buff brothers. Annoyed, he says the protagonist needs to pay him for everything he did earlier. The coin in his hands must be worth all the trouble. It is very strange to realize that a mere child managed to beat his companion. He argues that he won't accept that a child defeated him, claiming that the child has a weapon. The protagonist notices that the person in front of him is the thief who stole his backpack earlier. He asks whether the group has some smaller coins for change, because he wants to do a little trade with his items. The brothers are completely surprised to see a white gold coin in front of them for the first time. Promptly, the little thief grabs that item, thinking he has the upper hand. He says he won't have any change, and that this will make them even, letting the MC go away. In fact, the MC doesn't want exact change, just a few coins to survive one more day in the city. Someone, from afar, says that adults shouldn't bully a child like that. An adventurer approaches, ordering everyone to stop committing this crime. Surrounding the person, the muscular guys say it's better to leave before it ends in a fight. Without giving any time at all, that person strikes one of the opponents in a stylish way. Right after that, he knocks out the other bald one with just a precise punch. Seeing this whole scene leaves the blonde guy speechless, afraid to act. The best option for him is to leave while his opponent is still acting kindly. The brothers were not knocked out and show up once again, wanting a second round. Unfortunately, the person is caught off guard and defeated, being left on the ground. Fallen in front of the beggar, he asks if the protagonist is okay after that scene. On the night of the same day, they head to a bar to satisfy all of the little one's hunger. He asks the MC to eat more slowly so he doesn't choke, saying he can pay for more food if necessary. Finally, he introduces himself. His name is Lisbon Carter, and he can also be called Lis. The hero's name is Denmark, similar to the great country of Denmark. Noticing that the beggar doesn't have a place to stay tonight, he says that sleeping in this bar would be a good option. He jokes that he isn't a terrible person. His goal is to become a knight on the continent. Suddenly, a red-haired girl draws his friend's attention in the middle of the conversation. She complains that there is no more room for them to keep bringing beggars into the bar. She notices that her companion's face is injured and wonders what happened. Apparently, this is something that happens a lot with the two of them, and they get into a heated argument. Alice looks irritably at the MC, who doesn't stop eating at any moment. This makes the two of them look at each other in an uncomfortable and embarrassed way. As she leaves, she says that if they don't go to the capital soon, they will end up dying. This is Leaves' sister, who explains that she is quite tired and acted without thinking. Curious, the boy asks how the financial system works in this region. He comes from a village in the mountains. That's why he doesn't know how the coins work. It is explained that there are 8 types of coins in this empire, and the most valuable of all is the white gold one. They are called pelkes, with a wide variety of materials making up the economy. Using a sheet of paper, Lees explains exactly how the financial system works, in detail. Attentively, the MC reads what is written on the paper, trying to understand the value of things. He is surprised to discover that only one white gold coin can sustain a feudal territory for more than a month. Finally, he realizes he tried to pay for a pack of chewing gum using a coin worth billions of dollars. Leaving the young man in the room, Lee says he will go check where his sister is. In the same early morning hours, the boy sees that he has some free time and gathers all his equipment around the bed. He wonders which of these items would be worth selling at the market. He looks at his bag full of white gold coins and realizes they are useless because no one will accept them. So for now, the only way to live is by selling your own equipment. When he creates his pocket dimension bag, he notices it's much easier to use his magic outside the village area. Noticing someone is entering the room without warning, the hero manages to pretend he's asleep in time. The next morning, he leaves a note beside the bed thanking them for the bed and the hot food. As he leaves, he reflects that he needs a proper ID card before doing anything. Since walking around with a noble title will draw a lot of attention, he needs to find someone who can make fake IDs. In the village, the thieves wonder what they should do with so much money, suggesting they split it among themselves. To frustrate their plans, the blonde guy says exchanging all that money won't be very easy, and that they need to be careful. Suddenly, he notices his friends have run off, leaving him behind. Appearing out of nowhere, the MC manages to complete his first objective, defeating the thug who robbed him. In a forest, the man wakes up with his face badly injured, wondering what happened. The muscular man shows up happy that the captive has finally woken up. The one saying this is a giant dressed in a very strange way. Seeing he can't escape, the hostage asks to be released, asking who did all this. The ogre punches a tree, saying the same thing will happen to his hostage. He says he knows someone in the village makes fake IDs, and asks who that person is. Unfortunately, the thug says he doesn't know anything about that person. However, the bearded man doesn't believe him, and threatens him once again, breaking a tree. He says that if he doesn't hurry up and talk, he'll end up going to heaven in a tragic way. The hostage really doesn't know anything about it, but he knows someone who might be useful. Looking at the coin, he says he managed to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. When he tosses the item into the air and catches it, the magic slowly fades, revealing it was the MC the whole time. The scene shifts to a busy bar, when some people have their attention drawn. A well-groomed man enters the hall, drawing everyone's attention. This is the protagonist, who wonders if he went too far with his disguise. The waitress says she hasn't seen him before and asks if he would like to see the menu. In the noble's head, a voice says that if he follows the right orders, he won't have difficulties later. Then he speaks a secret code hidden in food dishes. Suddenly, the girl changes her expression and asks the noble in front of her to follow her. The place they go to is the bar's underground area, and it seems quite deep and hidden. On the wall there is a protective barrier made with magic, which is very strange for a place like this. Promptly the girl reveals herself to be a sorceress and opens a portal to the other side with her mana. Upon entering the place, it's possible to notice a kind of gypsy woman in a magical room. The waitress leaves the noble alone, saying she needs to do her chores. Seeing that the person in front of her seems embarrassed, she asks him to sit down. With his magical ability, the MC notices that the woman in front of him has 6 different spells set up in this hall. The other 4 are secret defensive and offensive spells. Lastly, there is the most interesting one, an illusion to hide the space behind the wall. The question that won't go away is, what does the blonde guy want by coming here? He finally reveals that what he has wanted all along is a fake ID card, which surprises the gypsy woman, who thought she was going to have a much harder task to do. To do that, the client needs to bring all the ingredients himself, along with an ogre bone. Using his pocket dimension magic, he quickly pulls the item out of his inventory. Impressed, the girl praises the man in front of her, saying he is skilled. The status the protagonist wants, in his mind, is Baron or above. Unfortunately, there is a lot of protective magic on ID cards for high status, and not even the woman can make them. But the hero doesn't care about that, believing the spells will be easy to do himself. Since the man insists, the girl charges for the service, which will cost around 15 million. With no patience at all, the blonde guy takes a white gold coin out of his inventory. Looking closely, the girl realizes her client must be someone extremely rich in this world. He asks if it's possible to buy other things besides the fake identity, saying he can pay whatever it takes. The next day, he begins to examine his new item, which will allow him to walk around. He got the capital's map and some papers from the Empire's army. On top of all that, he acquired some magic books and some spare change. He realizes he won't need to worry about money for the next few days. From inside the bar, the sorceress wonders who her client was, who left around 4 billion on her table. As she removes her mask, she reflects that he doesn't seem like an ordinary person. Unfortunately, she will have to report all of this to someone called the Great Mother. At the clan, the young woman states that at the moment, they are searching for her brother in the largest towns of the empire, but she doesn't believe it will be easy. Being able to disguise himself as other people with magic will make the whole process harder. Unfortunately, there are no more reasons to worry, since the family's uncle received the news. The letter is delivered to the man, who reads it carefully, paying attention to the details. He believes his nephew is very troublesome for trying to escape. Inside a weapons shop, the MC is negotiating some trades. When asked if he is traveling far away, he says he has something in mind for so many items. He notices the one who helped him on the previous nights buying a few things from the merchant. The little redhead is irritated with how the negotiation is going, which doesn't seem to be going well. She starts blaming her older brother for always walking around the city without money. That's because he always gives most of the profits to beggars he finds on the street. Realizing the argument won't stop, the MC steps in, trying to change the game. Looking at the boy surprises both siblings when they see he is loaded with items. In a bar, Lise says she was worried about him because he left suddenly in the morning without saying anything. Politely, the redhead says that happened because the boy knew he was being dead weight. This time, the one who will pay for the family's lunch is the protagonist, who offers to. He explains that he had some money from his clan, but he couldn't use it because he didn't understand how commerce worked. Curiously, they ask where the boy plans to go next. He answers honestly that he prefers to head toward the capital. Since they were already planning the same, the warrior asks whether they shouldn't join up on this journey. Hearing the proposal, the boy feels grateful, since the place they want to go is very far away. Ignoring the redhead's wishes, he says that having one more person on the team will make everything more fun. Unfortunately, they don't have enough money even to pay for the trains to the capital. That's why the MC's help with money would be very good. Looking at the redhead, he says he has enough money to take care of himself. When he says he can lend some to little Alice, she is left speechless. The scene shifts to the Imperial Palace, where the family's uncle named Blady Vaughn is the great emperor of the dragon tribe, praises the man for having worked hard and protected the empire from monsters. Being humble, he replies that it was only his duty, and it was nothing special. However, getting comfortable, he puts his feet on the table, irritating his majesty. The question he asks is why this visit is so sudden, when he was so busy. Explaining, he says that his youngest nephew escaped from the village, but that doesn't seem to worry the blonde man, for he believes the Crow tribe won't be defeated by just anyone. In fact, the uncle says it will be a relief if no village on the continent is wiped off the map. And the problem is that this boy was chosen to be the village's new chief. He explains that, even though he is only 16 years old, the prodigy is extremely powerful. Stories claim that he managed to capture a dragon when he was only 12 years old. Hearing that leaves the emperor speechless, understanding the seriousness of the whole situation. As he leaves, he says he is busy, needs to take good care of his people, and cannot help with this problem. When asked what to do regarding his nephew, he says that this is a problem for the family to solve. This leaves the hunter irritated, because he will have to deal with this problem alone. Heading toward the capital, they finally get close to the train that will take them to their destination. Inside the vehicle, the three begin to settle into their seats. It is explained that they are in a first-class seat, one of the most expensive in the car. Annoyed, the girl explains that it will take 4 days to reach the capital, and that she wouldn't be able to stay in cheap seats. Before, they had more than enough to pay for these seats, but the warrior's generosity made the budget run out. Seeing the train in the distance, we notice a group of orcs looking for a fight. The train continues down the track without stopping, as fast as possible. Inside the car, someone is reading a book about the Empire's laws and police. The little girl notices that her friend has spectacular concentration, since he has been reading since the train departed. She believes he will take the civil service exams, which take place every summer. This is the MC's plan, who has about a month to study all the necessary material. As a good friend, he really hopes the protagonist achieves all his goals in the capital. His plan is still to become a knight, but it is a difficult task, since he has a kind heart. While they talk, the train suddenly stops, making a very loud noise. Looking out the window, the redhead wonders why the cars stop so suddenly. Standing up, she says they still have a long way to go before reaching the next station. A heightened instinct draws the protagonist's attention, and he thinks he should take a look outside. Through the window, it is possible to see a mischievous goblin wanting to attack at full speed. Seeing that his friend almost got hurt, the hero approaches to check on her. When he asks if the girl is okay, she gets embarrassed. They notice a defeated goblin, which makes them curious. The knight says he will look outside to make sure everyone is safe. Drawing his sword, he believes the goblins are attacking the train, and that he needs to defend everyone. He leaves his sister alone with the protagonist, while saying he will be back shortly. Seeing her brother leave, the redhead screams non-stop, but she is not heard and is left alone. Looking out the window, she notices that not even her friend stayed in the car, leaving her isolated. Walking through the train, the knight notices something very strange ahead of him. An army of goblins is attacking all the passengers who beg for their lives. Being a malicious creature, one of them says he will steal every item he can and kill every human he sees. At the moment, one of them was about to take down an agent. Someone shouts for him to stop, drawing his attention. At full speed, the knight manages to strike the first goblin, defeating it. This greatly irritates the leader, who curses at the boy, wanting his blood. A tense fight begins between the two. At full throttle, the young man is much more powerful and manages to defeat his opponent with a blow to the neck. Seeing that he has defeated all the enemies in the area, he asks those he saved if they are okay. He warns that the seats in the back should be safe, not noticing the enemies approaching. Unfortunately, the rest of the goblin army appears in droves. However, before they can hit her, a blue aura covers the entire battle scene, causing each goblin to be eliminated, one by one. In a matter of seconds, the entire room is taken down without much effort. This was the protagonist doing, as he was outside the train, secretly protecting his friend. Impatient, he thinks he does not have time for this nonsense right now, since his plan is to get to the capital as soon as possible to study for his test. From inside the car, the redhead can see her friend flying outside. This sight leaves her impressed, because she did not know he was so powerful. After the whole fight, the train manages to reach the station east of the capital. Finally, the protagonist manages to reach his destination along with the adventurers. The redhead is complaining as always, because she is afraid her brother will be killed on a dangerous adventure, saying that if he goes to heaven at some point, she will dig him up just to bury him again by herself. She also complains to the MC, asking where he went when he was supposed to be protecting her. In front of the hero, a man is yelling at a citizen in front of a carriage, saying that he is blocking the street, asking if he knows who is inside the vehicle. In desperation, the person starts apologizing for what happened. Alice asks her brother not to interfere, because if he does, he will go home alone. With a keen look, the protagonist can make out the wolf crest on the carriage. It is explained that the boy's initial plan is to go to the bank before doing anything else in the city. Inside the Grand Bank of the capital, the clerk asks what she can do to help. To store all his money, he says he would like to open an account. Before she can do anything, the clerk needs his identification card. When the young woman finally receives the item, she places it in front of a magical device to read the code. The silence makes the boy tense, afraid his protective spells have gone wrong. He wonders what would happen if he were caught inside a bustling capital. Relieving all the stress, the girl says the boy has successfully confirmed his identity and can create an account. Having completed the process, he receives a tablet with inscriptions that grant him access to the account. From now on, this is the way he will be able to do business in this world, functioning like a kind of card, which means he can finally convert the gold he has into smaller coins. Complaining once again, the redhead says they waited a long time outside the bank and hands a bag to her friend. This is payment for lunch from the previous days, but that is not what the hero wants. The plan now is to separate the two groups, since the adventurer has things to do and doesn't want to be late. This makes the knight very sad, because he liked his company. In fact, the younger sister never forgot the vision she had in the carriage, which is why she is so annoying. Recalling it, at that moment she thought about what her friend was doing in midair, and looking at his face she reflects that she earned points with him for not running away in the tense moment. Seeing the girl leave, he states that the MC probably did something right on the way to the city, As he leaves, the knight wishes his friend good luck on the civil service exam test that will take place. Watching his friends depart, the young man's plan is to find a house to sleep in for the next few days. That is exactly what he does, going to a real estate agency next. The old woman bombards the boy with complex questions, making him impatient. Finally realizing that she rushed things too much, she apologizes for her anxiety. Finally, he states that he will live alone, because he comes from a very distant territory. The boy's plan is to take the civil exam and get a job to live in the capital for a while. Taking this exam means the boy will stay in the city for at least a month. The old woman knows all the details, because her son is also going to take this test as soon as possible. She explains that as soon as he passes the test, he will need to go to a school to be trained. Reflecting, the hero thinks that becoming a civil servant is as difficult as in real life. Fortunately, the good news is that there is a house with the necessary conditions for a student. Most houses in the region require paying a year's rent in advance, and this is the only one that doesn't. Even though the rent is more expensive, this is the best offer the real estate agency can make for the adventurer at the moment. The owner of the mansion is named Arshila and says it is a pleasure to meet her client. Hearing that name, the mage is impressed, because he is sure he knows her from somewhere. Approaching, the young woman asks for the identification card, because her son doesn't like certain people. Seeing that his card is all right, the hero says the young woman's name is familiar from somewhere. It is explained that her son is the Empire's prime minister, which is why the surname is quite well known. This person is on the hero's list of nobles who have a fake identification. His name is Archonta Artemius, an extremely powerful noble in the Empire. Curious, he asks why a noble family is renting out the house, but there is no reason for it. The girl explains that she does it because she likes the company of other people. When someone rings the doorbell, the homeowner says they must be guests. All of this makes the mage think the deal is dangerous, because the prime minister must be close to his uncle. The family from earlier shows up wanting to live in the same house. Immediately, upon seeing his friend, the knight is amazed by the coincidence. The situation is quite comical when they realize the three of them are trying to rent the place. At the royal palace, someone needs to sign several documents. The prime minister hears that the civil exam is approaching. He also finds out information regarding the people who are going to live in his house. Reading the papers, he reflects that it has been a long time since he saw them. He states that he met the young people when they were still children. He is happy to learn that little Alice will enter the Magic Academy, and her brother the Knights. Seeing that there is a third adventurer, he is curious to know who this person is that he doesn't know. His assistant saw the information and reported that the boy came to take a test, and his ID is that of a noble. In addition, it seems the MC already knew the two siblings previously. What remains is for the noble to decide what to do about this unknown third adventurer in his house. Resting in his new house, he reflects that somehow, he ended up agreeing to live in this mansion, wondering why he didn't buy a house right from the start, and now is stuck with this lease. However, staying here may allow him to go unnoticed. Although it is difficult to hide in front of the capital's minister, fortunately to help, his friend can confirm his identity to the others. Outside, the protagonist notices a crowd gathering. He analyzes that, around the mansion, there are many guards, more than normal. That same night, a bald man goes to a strange place. He begins to notice a strange aura in the air, becoming curious. Suddenly, the soldier is knocked out without even realizing who the attacker was. Fallen to the ground, he is astonished to notice the presence of someone flying in the air. The good news is that plant roots in this world have hypnotic effects. Approaching the target, he says he will only ask once, politely. To satisfy his curiosity, he asks why the guards are patrolling the house. The reason for all this is to watch the second floor guest, 24 hours a day. That scares the MC, because maybe the minister knows who he is. But it doesn't make sense, because he still hasn't been arrested. Unfortunately, the bald man doesn't know why the boy has been under observation for more than a month. Maybe the owner of the house is only suspicious about who his guest is. That's why he's watching. The soldier slowly begins to wake up from the hypnosis, and when he opens his eyes, he doesn't understand what is happening. Fortunately, the hero managed to escape in time, using his flying powers. Back home, he starts looking at his desk, planning to use a mask to hide. The next morning, the knight asks whether his friend has seen the latest news. Worried, he starts reading to inform his comrade. Someone called Lupino stole a valuable item from the Marquise's mansion. At last, the hero realizes that that wolf crest was the insignia of the one who was robbed. To make matters worse, the thief sent a notice of his next crime, which will happen the following day. Impatient, the redhead asks the two of them to stop freaking out and eat as soon as possible. At this rate, the Order of Knights and the Royal Treasury are going to be buried. The explanation for this is that normally stolen jewels are sold on the black market, and it is the Royal Treasury's responsibility to monitor how money moves, so everyone will end up burying their belongings to find out what illegal transaction is going on. Besides, it's not just any jewel, but one of the most valuable in the capital. A month passed, and the boy studied, ready to take the exam. Finally, he approaches the assistant, wanting to begin the test. Unfortunately, he apologizes, stating that the work is very difficult today. Before starting, he hands over a form and asks the candidate to fill it out. From the side, the sorcerer can hear the conversations people are having about the illegal transactions. People are completely losing it, saying they are suffering because of a mere thief. Night falls, and we can see several knights gathered. Someone is on the rooftops, saying he had to do this to draw attention away from the real problems. And he apologizes to society, revealing that the thief is the protagonist. He pulls a Lupino mask from his pocket dimension. Jumping from the roof, he wonders who the next person is that he should pay a little visit to in the middle of the night. The soldiers continue to watch the boy inside his room at all times, to make sure he isn't one of the suspects. However, what is inside the place is a hologram made with magic. That same night, the soldiers are gathered, wanting to find out who the current thief is. All of them are guarding the most expensive jewel on the continent, called the Crystal of the Skies. Two soldiers talk, asking whether Lupino will really come, since they have to follow orders. Even if he approaches, they believe the thief won't be able to do anything because of the number of warriors on site. The count in charge of this task asks everyone to be quiet and focus. His concern is whether his men will be able to protect his jewels this time. Annoyed, he says that whining is not a synonym for competence in the vocabulary. Since the crystal is expensive, if these people fail to guard it, they will never get a job again. Suddenly, a soldier appears, frightened, talking about trouble. He warns that Lupino has appeared inside Count Margaret's mansion. He states that same night, a large amount of silver and jewels disappeared from the safe, and in their place, a letter was left. This greatly irritates the nobleman, who doesn't believe his friend's mansion was robbed. The commander's plan is to split the units into two, to cover more area. The soldier's hypothesis is that the robbery at the commander's mansion was a false alarm. Being selfish, the man doesn't want to hear it, and orders everyone to stay to protect his precious jewels. While the argument happens, we see that the Crystal of the Skies disappeared without anyone noticing. Disguised as a soldier, the protagonist starts to move away with yet another successful theft. Using his magic, he activates a portal to quickly change clothes. In a matter of seconds, he appears as the famous thief Lupino. In his hands is the precious jewel, a task that was very easy to complete. Even though he is powerful, the protagonist can't defeat so many soldiers, and his promise was not to rob any other place that same night. A room covered in magical protection seals catches the boy's attention. Noticing that this room contains all kinds of protective magic, he wonders whether there is something important inside. Fortunately for the wizard, breaking this door's code will be very easy. Upon entering, he realizes it is nothing more than an empty room, with nothing interesting in it. However, when he looks more closely, he notices that one of the cabinets is also protected by magic. After breaking the spell and opening the drawer, he notices something interesting. Inside, there is a simple notebook, without a title. The next day, the knight once again asks whether the protagonist has read the news. She warns that Lupin has stolen two jewels that are extremely valuable to the continent. In fact, Countess Margaret's diametrous necklace has existed for more than 1,000 years. Apparently that necklace was meant to be a gift for the princess in the future. Hearing this, the boy chokes on what he was drinking, startled by the news. This is very bad news because his thefts are getting bigger than planned, drawing more attention than intended. Inside the imperial palace, a maid is calling for Her Highness. Suddenly, from inside a wooden box, someone begins to emerge silently. A girl in a pink dress starts walking through the room, after having hidden for quite some time. This is the third imperial princess, named Aurelia. At last, the maid finds Her Highness, who had gone missing. Unfortunately, she doesn't want company, and asks to stop being followed, as she runs. Moving away from people, she reaches the balcony, trying to think of a way to escape. With each passing second, the maid gets closer and closer, making the blonde girl nervous. Looking out from the balcony, her only idea is to jump, since there is no other alternative. Breaking into a cold sweat, she doesn't think much and jumps, managing to get very close to the other balcony. However, while she is in the air, she realizes she won't make it far enough, and she starts to fall. The maid finally reaches the balcony, to witness her princess's tragic fall. From there, it is impossible to see anything besides the garden's trees. When she opens her eyes, the princess realizes she was saved by a masked person. Nervous, she asks who the person in front of her is, and what is happening. The hero explains that he saw the young lady was in danger, and decided to intervene. Fortunately, he reassures her, saying he will put her somewhere safe. But before doing that, he asks whether she knows where the third princess's room is in the empire. This makes the girl nervous, because without realizing it, he is referring to her. She argues that she will only give the information her savior needs if she is put down on the ground first. Activating his magic, the wizard tells the girl to hold on tight, and he starts flying over the city, while the girl screams through tears, afraid of going up into the sky. Looking at the buildings from above, the princess realizes that the imperial palace is very large. Now that she is safe, the protagonist asks once again where the third princess's room is. Trying to dodge the question, the blonde girl says it isn't something simple to talk about like this. The boy asks what she is doing, and she replies that she needs to make some deliveries around the city. Promptly, the hero offers to make those deliveries. Putting the girl down on the ground, he hands her the necklace he stole earlier, and says he hopes it didn't cause too much trouble. Seeing that jewel, the girl is confused, but he explains that it is a birthday present. Without giving explanations, the boy leaves, saying the young lady will understand in due time. The girl, very fragile, is afraid of being left in that rat-filled alley. The blonde girl's complaint catches the protagonist's attention, and he sees that she is very naive. To help once again, he activates his power to get rid of all the little rats. Seeing that the girl is crying, he says it's okay, and that the whole problem has been taken care of. One surprising thing is that the girl had never seen rats before in her life. Before her savior leaves, the blonde girl asks him to wait, crying. She argues that she wanted to walk, but her legs are completely tired. In the next scene, the two are at the top of the city, talking about the obstacles they will face in the future. The young woman explains that she had no choice. She needed to run from her father's decision. Being completely honest, she says that if she stays in the palace, she will have to marry someone she doesn't like. Growing sad, she wonders how she is supposed to marry a noble she has never even met. This world is very strange to the protagonist, who doesn't understand why the young woman can't refuse that decision. He believes his friend is confident enough to run away from her father, but not to refuse a direct decision. If the girl wants to fight for her future, she needs to go on a hunger strike or cut her hair, or at the very least, pretend to be dead to show how determined she is. After all, this is the blonde girl's life, and she can't keep living according to other people's wishes. She advises her to fight to find the life she wants to live. These words move the girl, who understands and says she will fight for her desires. Her plan, from now on, is to tell her father who she truly wants to marry. After that, the boy is happy to know he helped one more life on the continent. We return to the capital's bar, where the gypsy woman enters calmly. The attendant notices the young woman's presence, and immediately starts moving to serve her. However, without even saying good morning to her employees, she heads to her secret room. At last, she finds Big Mama, known as the company's informant. She says it has been a very long time since she last saw her friend, named Milpia. At last we can get to know the gypsy woman, who is the company's leader. From now on, the nun no longer wants to be called by that name, but only Mama. She explains that she came here because a man went to her shop to buy information, and she has the list of what was requested. She realizes the nobleman wanted information about the Empire's military, something very suspicious. The sorceress couldn't follow her client the whole way, and ended up losing him. News that someone escaped from the Crow tribe has spread across the continent, and the nun already knows. Her hypothesis is that the slick-haired guy from earlier is the same person from the tribe. After thinking for a while, her friend begins to agree with this idea, believing it makes sense. Since it's someone from the Crow tribe, they wonder how many lives will be lost this time. Back at the palace, the girl is happy, holding her necklace, knowing what she's going to do. Once she is set back down on the ground, the girl apologizes for making her friend waste time. She says she would like to offer her room in return, but the boy doesn't believe that's a good idea. The two silently look at each other, while the girl grips the necklace tightly. Before leaving, the MC says he's rooting for the princess's future. The moment the boy leaves, the maid finds the blonde girl after a long search. Seeing that the boy is about to jump, the young woman wants to know at least the name of her savior. As he leaves, mysteriously, he reveals that his name is Lupino. Wishing her good night, the girl turns red as an apple. To get away, the hero uses his flying ability and departs into the distance. Leaving the blonde girl alone, looking at the horizon, in love, the minister asks how the investigation is going, but the people still haven't found any clues. He asks what the knights did in the meantime, and the man notices a strange notebook. Opening it, wondering what this is doing here, he begins to read page by page. He notices it's a book with all the bribes nobles have made in recent years. The protagonist himself is walking toward the palace to take his long-awaited test. Looking at the man, he thinks this is the least he can do, since he caused a lot of trouble in recent days. Things will get much more complicated for him over time, but this will boost his career from this investigation onward. Running away, he hopes the Prime Minister likes the gift left in his hands. In an extremely freezing region, a girl walks slowly, with an umbrella in hand. The young woman is completely white, like snow. Suddenly, a boy named Alfonso runs up, shouting the girl's name, which is Yuria. As he approaches the young woman, the boy trips and falls face first into the snow. When asked why he came running, he says he told his friend to wait. Annoyed by his impatience, she heals her comrade while insulting him. She tells him to stop smiling over stupid things, so he won't look like a foolish person all the time. Alfonso's goal is to become a warrior, just like the protagonist's uncle, who fights monsters throughout the territory. However, that will only be possible if they can cross this frozen area. Suddenly, ice monsters begin to appear around the two of them, frightening them a lot. In the distance, the girl sees all of this, unable to help her brother, who is cornered. From behind her, two more ice golems appear, wanting to defeat her in a fight. The young woman doesn't have much she can do, other than cast her magic, which causes a huge explosion on the mountain. The ice people watch the wreckage from afar, curious to understand what is happening. Watching all of this, a bearded man stays silent, planning his next steps. All of them know what is happening, and a young man says it must have already begun. The old man doesn't know why the boys have been going through all this trouble ever since they started getting obsessed with Blady. The problem is that he knows the duo will get what they want, and that's not good news. He states that the children aren't ordinary people, since they are his grandchildren. After they have defeated all the enemies, the scene of the boy running after the girl repeats itself, trying to make her brother give it his all. The girl asks how he plans to reach the capital, being so slow. The boy can't fly like his sister, so he needs to run as fast as he can. Even destroyed, the goblins still haven't been defeated, because they can get back up. The tribe these children belong to is called the Snow Monkey Clan. This is the capital of the Warriors School, and it is completely decorated with a carnival theme. People walk around, carefree and relaxed about life. It is explained that there are many people on the street on this date, because the entrance exam is one of the 4 festivals that the night school celebrates. Because the tests are public, people gather around to watch the exams. The little redhead isn't here, because she left to prepare early for something. Surprised, they notice knights from the Black Buffalo Squadron, making this the best day of his life. This is the knight's exam, but there is another reason for the MC to be here, besides his friend's test. The next day, the redhead will also take a test to enter the capital's magic academy. However, the 2 tests will take place at the same time, and it is the MC's duty to cheer each of them on. The hero didn't know the girl was a mage, and also isn't close enough to celebrate. But in the end he agreed, because he liked the knight and their friendship. Taking a day off wasn't a bad idea, since he was very stressed with studying for the civil service exam. An argument starts, with people asking why someone is walking around with umbrellas. The closer the hero gets, the more tense the fight becomes. The warrior is very irritated with the person with the umbrella, who apologizes, explaining that he didn't hear. That isn't enough, and the soldier threatens to break his opponent's arm. However, the knight has a heart of gold, and steps in to stop the unfair fight. He notices that the aggressor's arm doesn't seem to be broken, and that it was only scratched. This only serves to irritate the man even more, and he asks whether the young man also wants to get beaten up. A mustached man shows up asking what's going on, knowing that the redhead is called Gamli. As he leaves, he threatens the enemy, stating that this fight isn't over yet, and that he'll beat them up next time. When the boy wonders what's wrong with the guy, the person with the umbrella thanks him. The boy from earlier is the one using the umbrella, and thanks him for being saved. From afar, the hero watches everything closely, trying to understand what's going on. Inside a palace, all the competitors are gathered to finally take the test. One of the last to be called is little Alice, who is eager to pass. Unfortunately, the invitee, Yoria, doesn't show up for the test for some reason. Suddenly, in the last seconds, the girl appears, shouting that she made it in time. Tired, she introduces her name and says she came to take the magic exam. Seeing this makes the redhead curious about the competitor's appearance. Before the exam begins, the 2 friends start watching the gladiator arena. The boy explains that he is also curious to know how the exams work, which is strange, because in a few hours, he himself will take an exam like that. The announcer says the knight's test will begin, and asks everyone to be quiet, so as not to interfere. Looking at the arena, the boy notices that the competitor is the child he saved earlier. The rival is the redhead from earlier, which is a horrible coincidence. Afraid, he apologizes, begging not to be defeated in this fight. Answering the question, he says he doesn't know the competitor, lying that he looks like a friend who died. For the fight to begin, Alfonso has to put the umbrella on the ground and use his sword. The announcer explains that this time the opponent will be a knight from a mid-ranked school. Win or lose, this match doesn't matter, since the points will be based on skill. The match finally begins, and the 2 approach tensely. Pulling the blade from his back, the redhead says that, regardless of it being an exam, his opponent will live his last day today. This makes the young man start crying in fear. The audience grows tense at this scene, especially the 2 friends who can't help at this moment. However, the scene we see is completely different, with the boy gaining the upper hand in this fight. He himself doesn't seem to understand what he did, becoming confused by the hole in the ground. Being an experienced mage, the MC starts analyzing what could have caused this, with great curiosity. The magical exam happens at the same time as the arenas. Each round, the teacher will call 10 students to take the test at the same time. Having just arrived, the white-haired girl asks for permission to speak, because she didn't understand the young woman's explanation. Before answering, the redhead wonders whether her competitor prepared herself and explains what was just said. The first exam is flight, and the second is an accuracy test. When the girl says she understands the rules, Alice finds everything very strange, but says nothing. Back to the fight, the protagonist wonders what this brat did when he opened up the ground. Looking at his face, he wonders how it was possible to do that so fast. Seeing that his opponent is on the ground, slightly injured, Alfonso asks if he's okay. Not wanting to be defeated, the soldier gets up, calling for a fight, making the brat, without even asking why he's like that, stumble and fall to the ground. This scene leaves the redhead confused, because his opponent hit his head and is bleeding. Afraid, he asks what he should do and whether perhaps he should seek professional help, explaining that he can't stay under sunlight for very long. Seeing all this leaves the audience bored during the break in the fight. The hero manages to analyze that the boy was born with great potential, but still doesn't know how to use it. This could be resolved if he learned a proper sword technique. A voice says that the test for mid-rank warriors will begin in 10 minutes. This is Lisbon's call, and he leaves, asking the MC to take care of his little sister. Back to the magic test. The sorcerers are managing to float well. However, one of them starts running out of mana and faceplants onto the ground. Irritated, the teacher comments that this year's students are more incompetent than usual. The next group can already start preparing for the first test. Drawing the girl's attention, the hero makes his presence known to cheer her up. Upon learning that Den was sent by her older brother, Alice gets irritated by this information. Giving the young woman some tips, the adventurer tells her to relax and feel the flow of magical energy in her body. He explains that he read this in a book some time ago and hopes it helps. When his friend wishes her good luck, the redhead doesn't understand because they were never that close for that. The assistant asks the girl to get ready to finally take her test. While the hero acts as a hype man for the crowd, Group 4 will begin the trials. First of all is being able to fly using magic. Right after that, those who pass need to use a fire spell on the targets. The girl is starting to focus and use the tips she just heard to the fullest. This, unintentionally, ends up working, and the flow of energy in her body increases. It doesn't take much effort for her to start flying quickly. When she's in the air, she celebrates that it worked, being the first to float. Next, she needs to focus to hit the targets as soon as possible. Starting to activate her fire magic, she reflects on where she should direct the flow of energy. She shoots a fire arrow toward the first target quickly. When it hits, she celebrates, but something catches her attention. The girl in white manages to use ice magic to hit the targets as well. From afar, she says to herself that she used the Ice Queen's crystals, which form an endless storm. One spell used by the young woman was Ice Lance, hitting all the targets. The teacher asks the girl to stop, because in this exam area there is no magical barrier. Fortunately, that was enough for Yoria to pass the test. Only 3 competitors managed to fly high, which is a relief for the redhead. Seeing all this, the MC reflects that the white-haired girl used the necessary amount of mana without missing a single attack. He reflects that he didn't know powerful sorcerers were near the city. Approaching, Alfonso states that the person who is floating is his older sister. Back in the arena, we see that Lisbon is lying on the ground, defeated. The person who defeated the knight is a bearded giant. He is a warrior from the Black Buffalo Squad, who asks what his competitor's name is. As he leaves, he says that Lisbon needs to go home, because he isn't skilled enough to pass the test. However, suddenly Lisbon gets up, startling the bald man. Wanting to pass at any cost, he says he still hasn't been defeated, and that he can still fight. While the bearded man is being attacked, he reflects that this is the proper attitude of knights who never give up, even in hardship. Even though he is very fast, the boy can't land a single hit on his opponent. He praises the young man who has good motivations, but whose movements are far too slow. After taking a powerful punch to the face, the knight once again falls to the ground. With no time to react, the bald man doesn't wait, and launches into another attack. However, in the last seconds, the boy manages to dodge in time, surprising his opponent. He manages to use his sword to deflect the blow and counterattack. He hurls the giant far away, giving himself an advantage in the fight. The strategy the knight used was to attack instead of defend, and it worked very well at that moment. It is explained that if he had failed in that attempt, he wouldn't have survived another day. Extremely tired, the young man doesn't stop and keeps pushing forward. He gives it his all as he fights non-stop against the bearded man. As he keeps striking without pause and has his blows blocked, he screams with all the hatred in his chest. Unfortunately, the opponent manages to land a precise counterattack, dealing him considerable damage. Drawing closer, he asks where the person who had been fighting calmly a second ago went. He tells the young Lisbon to calm down and trust his own abilities. That advice motivates the boy, who draws strength from beyond to fight once again. He manages to land a direct hit on his rival's sword, sending it flying far away. Managing to stay on his feet, he is surprised by a sudden attack from the young man. Without any mercy, in a single blow, he manages to defeat his opponent. As he finishes the attack, he realizes things didn't go as expected, when he notices the target is still alive. Seeing that he managed to cut his face, the boy asks if the bald man is okay. Irritated by the blow, he retaliates with a strong headbutt to the boy's forehead, sending him flying back. Placing the blade against his opponent's face, he states that the exam isn't over yet. Out of energy, Lisbon finally gives up, saying that he accepts defeat. Noticing a strange expression on the bald man's face, he asks whether the boy really believed he could defeat a knight that easily. As he leaves, he says not to worry, because talented people like the boy are always welcome. That makes him happy when, suddenly, his sister arrives, worried. Upon hearing that the redhead managed to pass the exam, he celebrates, congratulating her on her success. He also says that he wasn't hurt too badly in this fight, and that he's happy because he passed as well. From afar, the 2 white-haired siblings watch everything, commenting that the adventurer group has good people. After all the exams have ended and night has fallen, the 3 go back to their homes again, which is surprising, because the 2 siblings will also be staying at the place for a while. Being cordial, the older one says it's a pleasure to officially meet everyone. Introducing their names, they say they will be staying at the mansion for a while. This leaves everyone unsettled, because they weren't expecting their presence. Everyone starts remembering the siblings' deeds, which were great. But in the end, they agree that they're happy to see them too. A noble arrives, saying that he only trusts this mansion to house his cousins from far away. The redhead seems surprised when she realizes the person in front of her is William Pendria. He is very famous for being from the monkey tribe, and for having great magical talent as a general. The little boy is surprised to see that they are talking about his uncle. Inside some random bar, someone is rudely asking for a room, but someone replies that they don't have change for such an expensive coin, making the person pull back their hood. revealing that it is in fact Leisha Blade, looking for her brother. The siblings haven't bathed since they left the village, and that's all they need. Mac believes that Lord Lancelot needs to visit an important place first. Uncomfortable, the boy prefers that they call him only Len. The diplomat from Crow Village explains that the value of their coins is so high that no other village can cover it. When the girl asks what they should do, we can see someone watching them from afar. That same night they went to buy some weapons at a depot. The manager of the merchant group asks why his customer is here at this time. They waste no time and ask whether the seller has seen the person in the photo. He leaves them confused because he hasn't seen her, but he knows who can find her. These people are actually here to get change for their valuable coins. This makes the man sad, because at the moment he can't convert those coins into smaller ones. The greedy man has a better proposal to make to everyone. He shows them his armory, explaining that they can find any kind of equipment they want in that place. Upon hearing that they can exchange the coins for weapons, the girl says she'll take a staff, but that scares the boy, who doesn't want them to do that, because he has something better in mind. Outside, he asks his siblings why they want to buy items they don't need. The young woman explains that it is to get some change to help her on her journey. But in truth, the vendor can make change and only wanted to make more money than he should. That makes the warrior want to defeat him, but that would be a terrible decision for the village. The best way is to report it to someone back home, since no one is trustworthy in this place. Someone bumps into the girl, drawing the attention of the three. He managed to steal a bag full of white gold coins once again. This is the blonde guy's lucky moment, and now he is rich for life, but without realizing it, he ends up cornered by the warriors of the Crow tribe. He draws his blade, threatening everyone if they come closer. Suddenly the warrior appears behind him, saying he doesn't have time for this nonsense. He knocks the thief to the ground, stating that it's really annoying to leave his tribe and have to deal with this. At that moment, the papers in his bag fall in front of the crook. He recognizes the MC who was in the photo. He explains that, a few days earlier, he also tried to rob that person. This leaves everyone surprised by the blonde guy's audacity. The next day, the civil exam will finally take place. Everyone, including the protagonist, is focused on doing their best. After the difficult test, the students try to see the results, anxious for the answer. Among them is the hero, who doesn't seem enthusiastic. Amid so many names, he realizes his on the list of candidates who passed the test. That same night, he celebrates with his friends at a party. Everyone congratulates him, saying that they also passed their respective tests. The lady of the house praises him for passing a difficult test in the capital. The Snow Disciples have rude manners, as they still haven't adapted to the capital. This makes the redhead joke that Alfonso is already getting used to living in the mansion. From now on, the hero will live in the dormitories, since it is cheaper than this house, and Alice believes her older brother will bother the MC if he stays here. The mage is sad, because they just met and are already going to be separated. She explains that they became friends when they found out they were the same age. This irritates the girl, who wonders why they aren't friends, since she is the same age too, making the MC ask if that is what she wants from now on as well. Once again, the siblings continue to argue while the hero is happy about the victory. He reflects that this place doesn't suit his personality, and that he needs privacy. Unfortunately, the secretary states that all the dormitories are full, irritating the hero. All the candidates should sleep in private rooms to enter the training. Not even the man knows why all the rooms are full, but he can't do anything. Shattering all the boy's dreams, he asks him to leave his contact information and wait in case a spot opens up. Arriving in the capital, a duo with animal-like appearances shows up. The cow asks the tiger if he thinks everything was in vain, and he replies that everything in his life has been without purpose. But he retorts that this won't be a problem when he has everything in his hands. This makes his friend believe that wanting everything in the world is far too greedy. She warns that the lion should not cross that forbidden line. He explains that he only wished for the empire to fall because he is stronger than anything in the entire world. Laughing, the lion says he doesn't want to be the cow's enemy, but he threatens her if she tries to ruin his plans. She is frightened, left speechless as she watches her colleague flying away, reflecting that she won't try to interfere because her faith will not allow it. The ceremony for the candidates who passed the test is finally going to begin. Everyone is gathered, neatly arranged in their seats. Even though he passed, the protagonist is bothered that he didn't get his private suite. Fortunately, the owner of the mansion said he could stay until he finds a place of his own, and it would be very rude of the young man to refuse such great hospitality and simply leave. This is a big problem, because he needs to leave the house that the Prime Minister can watch the entire time. A bearded man appears asking if he can sit next to the fugitive. When he agrees, he notices that his colleague looks a bit old, and even so passed the exam. The bald man asks, even though he is rude, what the boy's age is. He explains that he is 16, and understands that the question was only out of curiosity. Suddenly the fat man says it is a relief to find someone his age, surprising him. In a strange way, he says he is only a little older than the boy, but his appearance is that of an old uncle. As they introduce themselves, he asks if they can have a snack together after the ceremony. At the end of everything, the candidates who passed leave happily for their homes. However, a blonde woman appears mysteriously in front of the event. An amulet is spreading energy as the blonde runs closer. The teachers see her arrive in a great hurry and exhausted. Her name is Arian Vaughn, and she is allowed to pass. Inside a castle, she says her clothes don't match her style and are uncomfortable, asking her maids whether she really needs to dress like that for her birthday. They explain that the girl needs to look beautiful because she is the host of the event. Suddenly, someone who identifies himself as General William asks to come in. When they suddenly let a man into her room, the maids are startled. He apologizes and congratulates the girl for passing the Magic Academy. But all of this is thanks to the general, who helped the girl through the entire process of her engagement. William says he only did what the girl asked, and that the credit for passing the exam is hers alone. He explains that he is there because Her Majesty is worried about her daughter going to the academy under a new identity. The students wouldn't feel comfortable knowing they have a princess among them, which would keep her from enjoying school life. However, there is one single major condition for that, surprising the blonde. Back in the present, someone calls the young woman's attention. The mage states that she will be the girl's bodyguard for today. As she introduces herself, it bothers the blonde, who didn't know she would have attendance. Fortunately, she understands and introduces herself, hoping they will have a great friendship ahead. Right from the start, the two are friendly with each other, suggesting good relations in the future. Inside the academy, classes continue to be taught non-stop to the students. From August to November, the protagonist will have continuous classes, and will take a test at the end. After that, they will have practical training for an entire month, and will go to unique departments. The hero's friend asks what other subjects they will have besides the one they just had. By coincidence, the two will have the same class next. Politely, the bald man asks if they can continue the conversation later, since he knows his friend is going to study. A soldier shouts for everyone to line up in 7 rows. He hurries all the students, because he is not joking around. Seeing the formation of his men, he explains that his classes will always start that way, since this kind of training is meant to improve the candidate's health. However, what the boy fears most is swordsmanship class, because he needs to be very careful to control his strength, avoiding something worse from happening. The question he asks himself is how gentle he has to be to hide his origin. Using all his strength, the bearded man starts striking a log. The soldier praises him for his fighting skill, being as good as someone who has fought in wars. The surprising thing is that the bald man has never been a mercenary, and he accepts the compliment. Preparing to attack, he reflects that he needs to strike the target as weakly as he can. In his first attack, he drives the log down into the ground. Fortunately, everyone was looking at his friend and doesn't notice this strange scene. His strategy for now will be to skip as many sword classes as possible. In the Great Temple, it is possible to see several majestic statues. Inside, the tiger is in a moment of reflection, when something catches his attention. Someone explains to Mr. Fernando that they managed to gather as many people as requested. Finally, the person removes his mask to reveal his true appearance. He begins to deliver a sermon to his warriors, showing that he is Cardinal Fernando. The friends are commenting that it's strange that the hero isn't in his own dormitory. Unfortunately, he couldn't say anything when he found out there were no rooms left, and he was left out. When the fat man offers to help, the boy says it's fine, and that he'll get a place when one becomes available. Suddenly, something catches the MC's attention, and he notices 2 men in the back. They look like thugs and are clearly trying to break into a house, but he prefers to ignore it, thinking it won't amount to anything. However, the man keeps insisting that the young man sleep in his room so they can always be together. In the early hours of that same day, the thieves continue climbing houses. This time, the target is a mansion, which they will enter through the windows. One of the two uses his magic staff to open the glass silently. The staff manages to remove the entire pane, shifting it out of place. Finally, opening a way in for the two, they enter the mansion. So as not to waste time, they start running toward their objective as soon as possible. Suddenly, one of the boys notices something ahead, explaining that there are security spells in the corridor, and that it will take time to undo them. The plan is to break them as quickly as they can, using what they know. Some time passes, and they manage to reach a door, opening it slowly. Finally, they enter the target room, gazing at a wonderful statue. This is the goddess's golden statue, one of the most expensive in the capital. One of the friends explains that the temple's authority fell because of the defeat against the Demon King. He argues that if it weren't so valuable, it wouldn't have so many protective spells guarding this object. Suddenly, the protagonist appears masked to save the day, frightening the two thieves when they realize the boy came with the same objective. In a funny scene, the three begin to observe the object with attentive looks. Cleverly, the hero realizes the statue is emanating magical energy, and with his powers begins to do something to the item. Draining all the energy, he takes the object, stating he has never seen anything like it. Irritated, one of the delinquents lunges at the masked one with a punch. Without much difficulty, he knocks his opponent far away with a single blow, frightening his partner when he sees how far he flew. So one of the thieves won't escape. The hero approaches, stating that whoever does something wrong must be punished. The cardinal is hearing that they managed to get rid of those who were planning to create chaos in his plans. It is revealed that he is trying to find the Great Mother's headquarters, and his lead is a residence in the northern region of the empire. It is a small village called Granwell, easily tracked. This is good news for the man, who believes he will get rid of the royal family's rats in a single blow. While he was talking with his men, an explosion happens behind his back. From the spot, various debris falls to the ground, making a lot of noise. After the dust clears, the boy reveals himself, complaining that this wouldn't have happened if the thief hadn't resisted. He is startled when he notices all the cultists standing in front of him. Uncomfortable, he lies that he wasn't planning to steal the golden statue. This irritates the lion, who realizes that the great and famous golden statue of the goddess is being stolen. Angrily, he orders everyone to capture the masked one. Fortunately, he is very fast and skilled, managing to dodge the blows easily. His enemies also know how to cast magic and use the fireball skill, which is deflected in time. Realizing that the masked ones will never stop to listen to him, he flees by entering a black portal. Leaving everyone confused, they search for his location, asking how he disappeared so fast. While Fernando orders them to find him, the boy appears outside the portal. On the roof of a house, he feels sad, because he was trying to do a good deed for the city, and was misunderstood. Suddenly the man appears mysteriously near the hero. Irritated, he asks whether the boy really thought he could escape without any punishment. He prepares a powerful magical attack, saying he will pay for all his crimes with his life. This is very bad news, because the protagonist's night just got harder. Angrily, he asks his god to punish all those who defy his words, casting toward the hero a powerful spell called Wrath of the Gods. While fleeing, he says this is nothing but a misunderstanding. However, the magic hits and causes a huge explosion in the battle arena. Believing he has defeated the thief, the man waits for all the smoke to clear. He notices the blow was powerful enough to crack the monument. He is startled to notice that he has taken some damage somehow. The cultists appear to help their leader, afraid he might be defeated. Irritated, he tells everyone to be quiet, because his target managed to escape unpunished. Unfortunately, the man's magical energy is causing all of this in his body for having been used for too long. Back at the mansion, the hero reflects that things did not go as planned. When he removes his mask, he notices the statue is still in his hands. The hero heads to the next day of classes at the Civil Service Academy. Ignoring the lesson, he begins to reflect on what kind of statue this is, because he tried to hide it in his pocket dimension, but it wouldn't go in. His strategy was to paint it so no one would recognize it, but he needs to return the item as soon as possible. The bald man asks if the young man saw the latest news in the newspaper. He explains that the royal ball for Her Highness's birthday will take place at the Magic Academy. This makes the man ask whether his friend has the necessary clothes to go to that kind of event. However, he was not planning to go to that place in any way. Unfortunately, the orders are that all students, including the civilian ones, attend this event. Back at the Magic Academy, there is an exotic girl walking through the corridors. The girl is named Milpia and needs to do a favor for a classmate. Big Mama says that her informant at the Magic Academy will graduate next year. It is revealed that the young gypsy is only 16 years old and is younger than she looks. Ignoring her colleagues' wishes, she asks to enter the academy, stating that the entrance exam will not be difficult, since she is skilled. While she was studying, someone asks if they can sit next to her. It is revealed that it was the princess and her bodyguard who asked for a seat. Because she was late arriving in the capital, she was unable to attend the ceremony event. While the three talk, the redhead shows up speaking with her friend. She explains that this girl is sleeping in the same house as her bodyguard. Finally, everyone introduces themselves, while the gypsy watches from afar. With very attentive eyes, she notices that the girl seems to be from the Snow Monkey tribe, which is strange, because she doesn't know why someone from that tribe would enter the Magic Academy. According to information from the Great Mother, the third princess decided to study at the university as well. That's why the general's niece took the test at the same time to become her guard. She begins to suspect that the golden-haired girl might be the princess from the rumors. Gently, she gets the young woman's attention, saying it must be strange not to know anyone on the first day, inviting her to a small event after class. This makes her uncomfortable, because she doesn't really understand friendship. In front of his fanatics, Fernando wonders how something like this happened before the big day, blaming all the occultists for having done nothing and letting the thief escape. When they ask the cardinal to calm down, it has the opposite effect, irritating him even more. While the man is irritated, someone says that what was stolen is nothing more than a relic of the past, explaining that they only follow the lion because they believe in a glorious future, stating that they cannot ruin all the plans because of something from the past. This calms the old man, who asks what they decided to do for the big event. It is explained that they have plans to do something at the capital's great academy. Finally, the day of the princess's grand ball has arrived, and the city is bustling. The gypsy is one of the people who will attend the event. It has been a week since she entered the academy as an informant, and she has already managed to learn many things. Her suspicions were right, and Ayuria really is the general's niece, which increases the chance that her friend is the princess, betting that, at the ball, she will be able to confirm her hypothesis. Suddenly Alice arrives, calling her colleague's attention. Mo Xiao is very well dressed, explaining that this is her first time at a formal ball. Upon arriving, Alice's older brother Lise introduces himself along with Alfonso. Everyone introduces themselves elegantly to the young woman. Finally, the protagonist comes running after having spent some time in the bathroom. The girl says his clothes look very nice. The boy explains that the clothes seem expensive because they were borrowed from Madame, since he needed to be very well dressed for today's important ball. The girl in vulgar clothing draws the protagonist's attention. The two stare at each other for a while without saying anything. In a strange way, the maid is getting Her Highness ready for her birthday. The makeup is being done when someone arrives in the room, congratulating her. The general and her bodyguard arrive to protect her during the event, explaining that they only came to this place to wish her a happy birthday. Approaching her friend, Yuria says she really is beautiful and that she is jealous of the clothes, which makes her embarrassed because she doesn't like being praised so as not to inflate her ego. As he leaves, the general asks his niece to take care of her highness, happy about the two girls' friendship. The blonde asks if her colleague also wants to be made up by her skilled maids. Some time passes, and the event's main venue is filling up with people. On the second floor, the adventurer team is observing everything, commenting that it is already full of people, and the event hasn't even started yet. The little one says he doesn't care about anything except eating the delicious food that's been made. The group's new colleague makes the MC thoughtful for a while. Studying her face, he feels he has seen her somewhere, but doesn't know where. Suddenly, the bald man arrives, drawing everyone's attention. Everyone introduces themselves once again, explaining that they live in the same house. The bearded man says it is a joy to meet more colleagues his age, repeating the joke that he is the same age as the hero and doesn't need to speak formally. Surprising everyone, Yuri appears with a very beautiful face. Noticing his colleague's beauty, the young man compliments the girl, who becomes embarrassed. At that same moment, the blonde approaches, realizing she still hasn't been introduced to the group. The princess's appearance is majestic, being one of the most beautiful women in the kingdom. All the men are surprised, mainly the hero. At the same time, the general walks toward a mysterious place. He enters an old hidden house in the capital. Inside the abandoned place, we see a man sitting. He is eating, while William says he should have spoken to the princess earlier. Annoyed, William asks why his colleague is in the capital on such an important day. It turns out the mysterious figure is the protagonist's uncle. With no manners, the man tries to talk while eating. He argues that he doesn't like eating near people, that's why he's inside that house. Tossing a sheet of paper to the general, he explains that his youngest nephew ran away from home. He says he drew the boy so they would know who they're looking for in the capital. William leaves the man alone to figure out the case and says he will go see the princess. However, the drawing looks like it was done with his feet, because you can't tell who it is. Back with the group, the hero is completely stunned when he sees the girls. He realizes it's the girl he saved earlier. He notices that her uniform has traces of magical energy, and maybe that magic is confusing his mind or making him wonder why the girl's clothes are enchanted. The warrior notices his friend has been lost in thought for a long time and calls his attention. He panics, because if he speaks, the girl will recognize his voice. Looking into her eyes, he wonders if the girl will turn him in to the authorities. However, the girl herself introduces herself, saying she has heard a lot about the hero because of her friends. With a smile on her face, she hopes the two of them get along very well and form a great friendship. Back at the Great Temple, the occultists are gathered for the big day. The lion asks if everyone is ready to fulfill their duties. He asks the fox what advantage they will gain by carrying out this evil objective. The fox explains that, with this they will secure a path to eliminate the emperor and rule the entire empire. The girl's birthday will be the great opportunity for these men to make their plan succeed. Rallying everyone, she says it's time to depart and bring divine justice upon the world. Inside the ballroom, the friends are talking, except for the hero, who stays quiet to make as little noise as possible. He quietly slips away into a corridor by himself. He reflects that running into the girl in a place like this was terrible timing. Fortunately, he knows she won't recognize him because he wore a mask in the past. As he walks, he reflects that it wasn't a good idea to get close and that he must avoid her as much as he can. He opens a black portal to retrieve his mask once again. He knows his mask has magic that distorts people's ability to recognize him. This reduces the chance of someone finding him in the middle of this event. Suddenly someone appears behind the MC, trying to attack him fiercely. After managing to dodge, he wonders what is going on. His uncle appears, eager to start a fight right then and there. As he advances, he tells him not to try to resist, so things won't get worse. Fortunately, with each strike, the boy manages to dodge, buying some time. Frightened, he asks if he did something wrong to be attacked like this. The man explains that he plans to defeat him because he seems very suspicious, and that there is nothing wrong with his own actions. When the man asks the boy's zodiac sign, he doesn't understand anything. Losing patience, the man says he doesn't ask things twice and draws his sword to fight. The sun lights up the whole city as the two masked ones put the plan into action. The cow tells her colleague that something strange is happening, and when asked what exactly, she says she still doesn't know what it could be, but she says large amounts of blood will pour out of the purple woman's schools. Hearing this, the purple woman praises her friend's instincts. In addition, she says she likes it when things go wrong, and the streets and people are filled with desperate screams. But she reassures the cow, saying she doesn't need to worry, because they are only there to watch. The fight on the rooftop continues non-stop, as the uncle charges toward the masked one. Annoyed, he says he should have turned himself in while he still had the chance, which frightens the MC, who asks him to calm down. Unfortunately, his request is not heard, but he manages to dodge the blow in time. Realizing the man is truly trying to wipe him off the face of the earth, he begins to reflect on what the Libra and Pisces question asked earlier means. Upon understanding, he asks if the question involves some specific individuals. Buying himself a brief opening, he tells the man he has the wrong person, believing he is talking about a group that created the name of the 12 constellations. However, the man does not believe that excuse at all. He claims he's just a cheap thief and that, judging by his clothes, he doesn't go around stopping petty crimes. He draws his attention by praising him as a high-level knight. He says the warrior is there to ensure security and can't waste time on just anyone, and that he should be looking for someone who looks like a real villain. While he's saying all that, a huge explosion happens in the city. This is the perfect chance for the masked one to find a distraction for his uncle. Seeing that the hunter will be busy, he starts to leave. When he sees the boy starting to leave, the man asks where he's going. Back at the ball, the adventurers keep having fun, unaware of the explosions. The princess is in her room waiting for the big moment of her birthday. The maid suggests that the young lady talk to the guests, since they came especially to see her. She explains that there is a distortion spell on the young lady's dress, so no one will recognize her from school. She says it's been a long time since she wore an outfit like that, and she's getting uncomfortable. As she leaves, she says she needs to take a break and will be back quickly. While she is on the balcony, she remembers the day she was rescued by the protagonist in the middle of the night. Her memories make her smile lovingly at the masked one. Some masked figures are watching the young lady from the top of the castle. Meanwhile, the protagonist is running from his uncle as fast as he can. Unfortunately, the man is very fast and manages to get close. He reflects that if he makes a wrong move, he'll be cut in half, and he needs to think of a new strategy. To get his attention, he asks why no one at the ball noticed the big explosion. It is explained that there must be protective spells, and because of that no one was able to hear it. This time, an even bigger explosion happens in the city, drawing both of their attention. This makes the man wonder what is happening around him. However, the second he stopped to think, he realizes his target has escaped. While fleeing, the MC reflects that the explosions must have been caused by terrorists, who must be using the party to their advantage. As he flies, he realizes there is a bigger reason for all of this happening. Back on the balcony, the cultists draw the blonde's attention with their presence. The two ask the girl to come with them for a brief moment. Finally, the boy realizes that the main target of the attacks is the princess. However, his hunch could be wrong, and he needs to try several ideas first. The best option is to run away, because these terrorist attacks are not his problem. Lastly, he thinks that maybe the goal is just to cause destruction in the city. And if that's the case, if he runs, his friends will probably be defeated, since the explosions will serve as a distraction for the terrorists to move quickly. As he flies, he reflects that it may be impossible to save his friends in a short period of time. Then he pulls from his pocket dimension the Eye of Horus, the monster. He finds it very sad to have to use it at this moment, but he has no choice. The object begins to open and to channel purple energy across the city. With the magic, he can observe the masked figures, concluding that the explosions really were a distraction. Looking deeper, he can also see that the princess is being taken away, which is very worrying, because the girl is very scared. The young lady asks what they are doing, saying they will be in serious trouble if they continue with this behavior. Afraid, she offers money for the men to stop this. Irritated, one of the masked men says it would all be easier if they could knock her out, but unfortunately, they can't do anything, because the spells don't work on the girl. Approaching, the boy threatens the young lady, saying she can't say another word or there will be consequences. Frightened, she screams, asking who these people are who dare to threaten her. That is enough to irritate the young man, who launches a powerful attack. At that moment the girl screams, closing her eyes so she won't feel the blow, but she notices something strange. When she opens her eyes, she sees that all of her kidnappers are defeated on the ground, and someone, to her surprise, says it's been a long time since he last saw the blonde. Finally, Mr. Lupino appears, saving the day once again. There are still masked men left, who rush into the fight. To ensure her safety, the hero asks the young lady to hide, because he will protect her. The remaining enemies charge at the MC, wanting to retrieve the princess. With one strike, he manages to throw one of the masked men far away, using a distinctive kick. Appearing behind the target, he asks what kind of terrorists these are. The remaining kidnapper draws his sword and advances, attacking his opponent. Skilled, the hero focuses and manages to dodge the blow, jumping over it. Then, he activates his rocket punch ability on the target. The enemies keep appearing in hordes, wanting to defeat the boy. Those who arrive are starting to wear the protagonist out, and he is already irritated. Dodging another attack, he realizes the fight will end faster if he uses his magic. Then he delivers a powerful elbow strike to the masked man, defeating him instantly. Stylishly, he manages to catch the sword in midair to defend himself even better. With a smile, he says he can't let his enemies make that much noise, which frightens everyone, as they are defeated with a single blow. In the distance, the blonde is watching the whole fight, impressed. The plan is to flee as soon as possible, so the rest of the enemies don't show up. To wrap things up, the hero asks if the young lady would like to go on a date after everything is over. This leaves the girl completely speechless at the unexpected request. Seeing all his henchmen fallen on the ground, the lion approaches, curious. A survivor draws his boss's attention, claiming this was the work of a thief. Hearing that, the old man believes God is giving him a golden opportunity. He shouts that he must deliver God's punishment as soon as possible. The explosions left the city in complete ruins. Amid the rubble, the protagonist's uncle is alive. Looking at the peak of an explosion, he is happy, thinking no one died. When something catches his attention, the hunter manages to dodge an arrow in time. He activates his ability, which releases a purple blast into the ground. Then a masked swordsman appears. A great fight begins between the two. Suddenly, the man takes advantage of an opening and attacks his opponent. He defeats him with a single blow, slamming him into the wall. This scares a man, who wonders what is happening. Meanwhile, more terrorists show up looking for more fighting. It seems these men are waiting for the hunter. Quickly, he fires a volley of arrows toward the army in front of him. He is surprised by a boulder that comes flying in, nearly crushing him. Because he is very strong, he manages to shatter the object with a punch. He energizes the stones and hurls them toward the enemies. Suddenly, golden chains bind his arms. As several enemy soldiers approach with bloodlust in their eyes, it seems this is the warrior's final moment. But, with a lot of strategy, he manages to burst the chains and counterattack. The fight doesn't stop, which irritates the uncle, who is tired. With a blast of ice, a mysterious person appears. He is revealed to be William Pendria, the great general, who wonders why Blade is in the middle of this war. Suddenly, the hunter realizes no one is protecting the area around the academy. Meanwhile, many explosions occur, indicating there are many spikes near the academy. This was the perfect opportunity for the terrorists to move in, surrounding the heroes. Captain Obvious believes this is a trap. The city is completely overrun by the occultists. Fortunately, the protagonist is hiding with the girl. Even without knowing what is happening, he believes these men are after Her Highness. At that very moment, an explosion happens, and the men notice the lovers. Which is strange, because Lupino used a concealment spell, but he notices that the Dala bracelet is protecting him from all spells. Unfortunately, that's how the two were found. To manage to escape, the MC magically breaks the bracelet. Realizing the magic has been removed, more masked men approach. Once again, the boy asks permission to pull his tricks. He grabs the woman by the arms and flies away, making it impossible for their trackers to catch him. But they didn't expect the leader of these occultists to also be a powerful mage. The lion won't let things be ruined this time, and heads into the fight. Activating his magic, he says he will deliver the god's punishment to the thieves. At full speed, he fires a bolt that frightens the two with its speed. A huge explosion in the sky indicates the two were defeated forever. But suddenly, the man is caught off guard, because the boy is very powerful and created a magical shield. Surprised, he asks how he managed to escape the final judgment. Irritated, the protagonist says he will use all his knowledge to defeat the terrorist. Completely unhinged, he orders everyone to be quiet as he unleashes bursts of fire. To save himself, Lupino activates the aerial shield at the last second. The girl is impressed by the explosions in the sky, in love with her hero. So the girl won't get in his way. He puts her to sleep with magic. It will be difficult to maintain the sleep spell because of the bracelet's great magical energy. At that very moment, archers shoot arrows toward the MC. Tired, he jokes that it doesn't work against him, since he can defend himself easily. However, a swordsman approaches the boy. Fortunately, his strike is blocked at the last second by the magical shield. Once again, none of the blows will work against the mage, who is very skilled. The leader's two right-hand men join forces to defeat the player. Dodging, he manages to energize two shields, holding back the blow. Irritated, Amo tries to launch a surprise attack from behind, but he is surprised when the hero flies upside down. The boy manages to do all that and dodge the blows while holding his girlfriend in his arms. Once again, he keeps dodging non-stop while charging up a powerful energy strike, exploding directly into the white-haired masked man. Seeing his colleague being defeated by Scar, he is surprised, which makes the MC joke that his enemy's concern right now is staying alive, and it doesn't take long for him to be defeated by a precise strike, knocking him down as well. The volley of arrows doesn't stop coming toward the little one. Even tired, he holds back the arrows while charging up another strike against his rivals. Throwing the arrows back, he says that small fish should stay in the sea, hitting his enemies fatally in the heart. Irritated, the lion demands that the protagonist stop this insolence, activating a divine magic, thinking it is the god's punishment, which leaves the boy confused, because he doesn't understand the old man's talk. Tired, he begins charging up an atomic energy ball, and he believes the terrorist is the one who should be punished in this case. Being surprised to see that his opponent dodged the ball. To finish the battle, the hero unleashes a burst of fire at the enemy, believing it will be hard for him to dodge. Unfortunately, he is very powerful and activates his fairy wind magic, saving himself. Even so, the impacts are so fast that they still cause him considerable damage. To retaliate, he attacks with his divine sword. Defending himself, Lupino believes the blow was good for an old man, and he finally prepares to throw the neutron ball. The energy is so great that it lights up the entire sky, surprising the terrorists in the distance. The future has only one trajectory, according to the 7 spears, and it will result in only one answer. At that, the hero mentions a weapon that alludes to a spear known in Celtic mythology. That is the name of his strike, which causes a burst in the skies. Being very fast, it makes it impossible for the lion to dodge. The explosion on the enemy is so strong that it causes meteors in the starry sky. From afar, the two generals watch the victory. Pendria realizes that the magical energy levels have exceeded the limit. The city is in ruins, while the one responsible for all this is lying fallen. Waking up with a start, he notices his soldiers fallen around him. His right-hand man has blood coming out of his mouth. Mario's final moments in life are spent asking his leader to achieve his goals. Seeing that he has lost more than a soldier, a great friend, he begins to cry. After that he coughs because his organs are damaged by the blow. Appearing, the hero knows he cannot let him heal, completely out of patience, listening to the occultist nonsense. Unfortunately, at that moment, the blonde wakes up as the spell ends. In that same instant, she opens her eyes and notices that everything is fine. To save her, the two friends approach Her Highness, asking if the girl is okay, and checking that she has no injuries. After saving the day, the city continues its routine as normal. Walking among the crowds, the gypsy is heading to some secret place, entering a dark alley, without anyone noticing. Suddenly, something catches her attention. When she looks, she notices she is surrounded by armies, and a leader in front of her. Approaching, the chief says it has been a long time since he last saw Milpia, revealing herself as the head of the Great Mother's intelligence company. Impatient, she asks why her colleague is here, along with the elimination squad, which makes the young woman realize that the suffering girl knows nothing about what is happening. Handing her by magic a piece of paper, when she looks, she realizes that people took a photo of her together with the terrorist. The leader explains that she understood everything that was happening, and the girl's plans. Seeing that she has been caught, she starts lying, saying she never did that. And unfortunately, there are no excuses for a traitor, her fate already decided. Ordering her soldiers to attack, she bids the girl farewell, one last time. Seeing that she is going to be defeated, she claims that everyone is making a mistake. Suddenly, red blood begins to drip onto the ground, and the gypsy is finally defeated, brutally. In fact, this was a mistake, and the general herself was betrayed. Her final moments are spent wondering what is happening, without understanding anything, revealing in fact, that the paper was fake and contained her face. The Great Mother approaches, asking whether they really thought they would deceive her with weak magic, revealing that the true traitor is the head of the company. With a smile on her face, she bids the young woman farewell one last time, as she watches her scream. Frightened, the gypsy watches all this brutality, not knowing what to do. And the news is that now, the position of headquarters leader has become vacant. Approaching, yes, elegantly, her maid, she orders that from now on she will manage her barracks within the capital. This frightens the girl, because she doesn't know whether she is ready for it. Without wanting to hear about choices, she leaves while calling her to dinner another day. Frightened, she asks why her friend didn't tell her this was going to happen. But in a sadistic way, Mom reveals that she likes surprises. That same night, the story shifts to the royal palace of the empire. After the whole attack, the princess can finally sleep on her birthday. Sitting near the hall, the prince watches his future wife resting. He is then called to a meeting where very important people from the capital are present. Among them are the powerful generals Blady and William Pendria. The emperor says that Xantes, the great prince, arrived late for his first meeting. Casually, the blonde apologizes, saying it won't happen next time. Impatient, the general asks for the meeting to finally begin, stating that the results of the capital's plan, which uses the princess as bait to capture terrorists, worked. For it to work, the only person who leaked the information was the lion, but he discovers, looking at the map, that at the scene of the fight were the cow and the scorpion, which makes the soldiers ask why the two showed up, since the claims were false. But they confirmed that they were not involved in the plan, and only watched from afar. The head of the Adventurers Guild complains that this means only the lion was caught in the trap. After that, the terrorists split his forces into 3 groups to invade the school. In the middle of the explanation, the blonde interrupts, because he notices footage of someone in the skies, believing that he used some spell that distorts the image on the city's cameras, which means that no one knows the identity of the person flying above the houses. But according to the princess, the boy is known as Lupino. Quickly, he realizes that this is the name of the thief who has been causing robberies in the city in recent days, wondering curiously whether he is part of the 12 constellations, and he gets irritated when he realizes that no one knows, because he is afraid of losing his wife. Tired, the emperor asks that the whole fight stop immediately. This greatly irritates the blonde, who stands up, annoyed at what was said. Disagreeing, he reveals that the emperor is his father, and also the father of the great princess Aurelia. The boy who likes the 6th number runs away, surprising all the generals in the room. With no argument, the emperor asks them to let his son leave, because he is not wrong in his accusations. Unfortunately, the boy needs to understand the situation and continue with the capital's plan. After all, they say that personal emotions should not control an emperor's mind. In his room, the spoiled boy begins to cry, alone. That same night, it is possible to see some occultists trying to heal their leader. After using a lot of healing magic, the man begins to wake up little by little. It is revealed that, unfortunately, Scar was not defeated in the last battle. Beginning to regain consciousness, Fernando asks whether, at his side is his henchman. Finally realizing where he is, while he listens to his soldiers talking. Worried, he asks whether Mario died in the last fight, recalling the defeat. Fortunately, the man says that Vibrio survived, although he is a bit injured, stating that he separated an adorable pair and sinned against the former Scar. Being in the infirmary, the emo takes the necklace off his neck. The story is now on the Empire's farms, to the south. The town is peaceful and has a great monument called St. Percival. Inside it, the Pope prays in concentration, in a spiritual manner. However, in the middle of it, he notices someone entering and welcomes them. Realizing that St. Hillis appears very elegant in the middle of the night, approaching, she thanks the priest for agreeing to talk so late at night, but the old man believes he could not refuse the girl, since she has just returned from a long journey. The night continues as the two go out to have some tea. Unfortunately, nothing in the world is easy, and the trip the girl took was not easy at all, but she believes that something very interesting has already happened in the middle of this journey, which makes the Pope very curious to find out what happened. Suddenly, something happens, and draws both of their attention. With a noise, the suffering one realizes that the girl is crying magical tears. As she reflects, it seems that something happened to her sister, and when speaking of sister, the blonde reveals that he is talking about the emo paladin Vibrio, which is very strange, because she has a wonderful necklace, which took a year to be made. Standing up, the girl apologizes, because she needs to leave for the capital, to save her family. Worried about his colleague, he says he will order some guards to accompany her on the journey. Being tough, she says it's fine, and that she met important people on her recent journey. Inside the church, people begin to wonder whether they should enter a room, revealing that they are the three siblings hunting the protagonist, without resting for a single moment. The story takes place in a desert, 1 month before the ball in the city. The adventurers wonder what time they will manage to reach the village. The youngest apologizes, as he believes he should have been more careful on the way. Removing her hood, the leader says it is all right, and that none of this would have happened if someone else had not been too excited. The jab is in fact aimed at her brother, who is the team's vice captain. Fortunately, the boy says he has no excuses for what he did, and will take full responsibility for his actions. The only thing the three want is to find a village to rest after the trip. It has now been 10 days since they started tracking the prodigy, and they have finally gotten information about his location. In fact, 2 days earlier, they hired a guide to take them to the great capital of the empire by train. Unfortunately, the tribe's currency is worth a lot, making trade outside it quite difficult. Finding out that their cash reserves were very high was a big problem, because the guide became greedy and wanted to steal the coins. But this was an easy fight to win, since the tribe consists only of powerful warriors. But, without thinking, they realized they should have left at least one survivor alive. Being sensible, the youngest asks whether it would not be easier to fly until they find a nearby village. That is even a good idea, but there are problems, because the girl has never used flight magic before, and to make matters worse, she has a tremendous fear of heights. Fortunately, she has a power that can track the nearest water source, indicating a village nearby. On the night of that same day, people on camels gather, noticing the bodies of the fallen guides on the ground. Seeing the destruction, they ask whether this is the work of trained assassins, but they do not seem poisoned. It seems the target's hearts were crushed with a single blow, looking like the work of a professional. On top of a camel, a muscular man with a slashed eye is watching everything. Finally, the adventurers arrive at a hotel and ask for a room, but there are no vacancies. To make things even worse, this is the only hotel in town, leaving them with no options. Arriving at the place, a bearded man asks what the problem is with lodging the adventurers. Apologizing, he states that someone important is using the place that day. Unfortunately, he will not be able to make any of the rooms available, leaving the three without shelter. Irritated, the warrior asks audaciously whether it is really that hard to get a room, and he gets ready to start fighting as soon as possible. Without being intimidated, the bearded man asks who the insolent person talking back is. The two start getting into a childish spat over who will speak first. In the background, more soldiers appear, cornering the three adventurers. Approaching, the leader says the boys should be more careful about what they say around town. Irritably, he threatens, saying that sometimes those would be their last words. But that is exactly what the fighter wanted to hear. After all, fists speak louder than words. Not knowing who he is facing, the man believes he will win and defeat his rivals. Confident in his powers, he doubts these people can land even a single blow on him during the conflict. Moving into fight, he says they can at least try to fight back. After all that, someone interrupts the fight, ordering them to stop. This startles the bearded man himself, who notices the saint. The woman from earlier approaches, irritated by what has happened. Apologizing, as it seems her subordinates offended the three adventurers, politely, she formally apologizes on behalf of her men. In another part of the empire, someone tells his lord that the scarlet crystals were also stolen. This irritates the masked man, who asks whether they know how much those crystals are worth. Calmly, the muscular man asks him not to worry, because he will get the items back, because he knows the suspects were not trying to steal, and unintentionally, took the spoils of the fight. The question that will not go away is whether the boy managed to find out who these people are. These thieves, being an excellent hunter, he knows exactly who they are, revealing that his targets are siblings who have red eyes and seem mysterious. Finally, the young woman introduces herself in a friendly way to try to start a conversation. Realizing that, because of her, the three cannot rent a room at the hotel. She apologizes, as she should have paid more attention to the details to avoid problems like this. Tired, the boy gets straight to the point and says he only needs a room and everything will be resolved. Irritated, the young woman says that the soldiers are followers of God and should spread his mercy wherever they go. To everyone's surprise, she asks them to kneel, using powerful magic to control bodies, which frightens the little one, who believes there is no need for things so violent. But the woman believes that those who have sinned need to be punished, stating that they will be able to sleep for free. Changing her demeanor, she asks everyone to choose the room they want and make themselves comfortable. This frightens the three brothers, who were not expecting something so crazy right in front of them. That same night, the muscular man is reading various papers to continue his investigation. He remembers that his targets showed some people white gold coins during their journey, meaning those people were trying to find a way to get into the organization. After a night's sleep, the young man wakes up startled when he realizes the two brothers are not in bed. As he steps out into the room, someone catches his attention in the distance. The team and some soldiers are eating and invite him to have breakfast. The warrior says that everyone ended up talking and became friends after the fight. Finally, the general apologizes for the fight that happened earlier. He says they should have said which tribe they came from, because then they would have found an empty room. This scares the little one, because he didn't know they could go around saying where they came from, without any secrecy. In fact, it was the vice captain who wanted to tell their whole journey and how they ended up lost in the middle of the desert. Apparently, he also found out that the young woman who intervened the night before is a saint of the great temple of Percival. This scares the little one, because he knows the saints were first chosen 80 years ago. Interrupting everything, the young woman scolds everyone who is already drinking in the morning. She warns that they can't be doing that, since they will need to travel as early as possible. Politely, the boy apologizes, because he had no idea the person in front of him was someone so important to the world. The young woman also heard that the adventurers were attacked by thieves in the middle of the week-long journey. She asks if the boys would like to travel together with her team and avoid problems like that. In the city, in the middle of the desert, a man approaches on top of a camel. Threateningly, he asks if the man has seen some people with red eyes in the area. These are the muscular man's soldiers, who are searching for information for the investigation. After that, the investigators head toward a bar to interrogate those inside. With no respect for anything, they nearly beat up the old man to find out more details. He can't fight back, because he has a large army of fighters in front of him. The leader warns that they are in a hurry, and it's better for the bartender to answer the questions quickly. He asks once again about the group of adventurers, surprising the young man. He says they left together with the saint and her group a few minutes ago. The woman's caravan is already far from the city, being guided by trained soldiers. Inside the wagon, the girl is casting a spell that cools the environment. Recovering, the saint says she was very tired because of the heat and gives thanks. Unfortunately, these women are forbidden to use spells for their own benefit, because that undermines the purpose of the journeys. Curious, the boy asks whether it is right for them to take part in the saint's journey, but the girl explains that there are no problems, and in fact, she was very bored traveling alone. While they talk, something happens on the roads, drawing their attention. When they look outside the wagon, they notice the captain with an injured arm, along with the soldiers. He, watching the horizon, wonders who is approaching. He notices a large mass of people moving in one direction. Looking more closely, he realizes they are enemy soldiers preparing a surprise attack. The orders are for everyone to take position, and with their lives try to protect the saint. The boy says that it doesn't matter if the target is on the saint's team, he will still attack with full force. Even if it is difficult, he wants those red-eyed people to kneel before his presence. The fight continues at full speed, while the army of thousands approaches. Even in formation, the saint's soldiers are frightened by the number of enemies they have to face. Out of nowhere, a swordsman appears, wanting to defeat the leader of his rivals. Fortunately, the skilled man manages to counterattack his assassin. He asks everyone to protect their leader, and doesn't want to let anyone lay a hand on the young woman. One of the soldiers charges at his enemies, defeating them easily. Even with great effort, the numbers don't run out, and they keep approaching at full speed. In the distance, a second horde of mages approaches together. They begin to activate a spell with their magic staves. They launch several fireballs into the skies, toward the warriors. Unfortunately, the men have no way to dodge. The explosion hits the soldiers, indicating that all of them were defeated. However, in the middle of it, the girl appears with protective shields, stating that these basic fire spells are easy to defend against. Mockingly, he says it's his enemies who should know who they're fighting. With just a few explosions, he sends dozens of opponents flying. The warrior is relieved, because he wants to fight, and this is the perfect opportunity for it. Seeing that they're afraid, the muscular man motivates his men, telling them not to be scared. He claims they will win the battle, thanks to the strength of their numbers. Without any fear, the fighter asks if they can start fighting for real. He unleashes a powerful fire attack on the ground, destroying everything in its path. At the same time, the sorceress is firing energy blasts, taking down even more people. The enemy soldiers are being eliminated easily, without any difficulty. In the distance, two boys notice that the Raven's adventurers are very strong. Leading these men, the bearded man tells his units to follow him to carry out the plan. Their orders are to deal with the dark mages from a distance. They keep charging fireballs non-stop toward the carriage, but none of their attacks hit. Once again, because of the magical shields, missing attacks repeatedly leaves the commander of those mages irritated at the Holy Knight's skill. Realizing his companions are standing still, he yells for them to keep firing. While one of the mages charges up a strike, an arrow brutally hits his face. Then the others start getting taken down one by one, in sync, leaving only the leader alone. In the distance, the holy soldiers approach, declaring that the cursed will be punished. Proudly, the man says no one has the strength needed to face him one-on-one. The fireballs close in on their rivals, causing a huge explosion in the air. Seeing the smoke rise, he believes his enemies have been defeated, calling them useless. He panics when an arrow nearly hits his face, but it strikes his comrade instead. Closing in, the bearded man asks whether the man really thought he had a future after betraying God. Angry, he says his life ends here. The saint is powerful and is using protective magic on her men. Praying to God, she asks him to protect them in this fierce battle. Irritated, the mage orders that the targets be eliminated as soon as possible. He then uses a fiery shock spell toward the camels. Energized by the power of the blessings, the captain is focused on defeating the mage. He shouts to kill them all and not leave a single soul alive on this battlefield. Because they are trained and skilled, they manage to defeat opponents with every blow and sword strike. That surprises the villain, because he didn't expect such strong resistance. Afraid of dying, he flees, leaving his subordinates behind. Noticing this, the soldier shouts and tries to think of a way to follow him. However, he realizes he has been fatally wounded in the stomach by someone. With perfect aim, the muscular man approaches in an intimidating way. That makes the man wonder why the wounded person is there. As he pulls out his sword, he prepares to finish his opponent once and for all. At that moment, someone shouts for this scene to stop immediately. He throws a powerful strike, which is blocked in time by the fanatic. As he blocks and is thrown backward, he starts trying to understand who did this to him. Approaching, the warrior believes the swordsman is the leader of those soldiers, and from now on, the entertainment will be beating him with all his strength. But that is good news for the muscular man, who has found his red-eyed enemies. The soldiers keep doing everything they can to win the fight. From inside the wagon, the saint continues blessing everyone on her team, using her energy, praying intensely. She manages to heal the wound that would have been fatal on the bearded man's body. Slowly, she restores him to his original condition. That surprises the fighter when he notices the blessings the saint performed. Now the fight is the two adventurers against the muscular man. Seeming to know his opponent, the captain says he isn't someone who can be defeated easily. He is known as the Black Knight called Malicia, long known as the king of all mercenaries in the world. In fact, the boy thinks that name is very funny and isn't afraid at all. Impatient, the opponent prepares a powerful attack against his target. Fortunately, the blow is blocked in time, preventing tragedy. All of this seems very fun to the boy, who cracks a smile as he advances. Once again, the general strikes the ground, causing ruin wherever it goes. At the last second, the adventurer manages to block using his sturdy axe. He feels a bit sore after being hit by an energy blast. In that same opening, his rival rushes in to try to defeat him with a single blow. Having trained for many years, he manages to defend against that strike and remain unharmed for longer. This greatly surprises the scarred boy when he sees he still hasn't won. With a single blow, his sword is destroyed, leaving him weaker. With a powerful punch, the young man manages to throw his enemy very far away. The impact is so strong that it sends him flying toward a rock with full force. Without giving him a moment's respite, the boy moves in to finish and win the battle. Playfully, he asks his opponent to try to dodge the attack he's planning to make. Being a skilled mercenary, he uses this to his advantage, blinding the enemy at the last second, creating the opening needed to land a powerful strike to his face. This time, the blow connected, causing a small injury, but nothing fatal. Full of himself, he shouts that he will defeat anyone in front of him. Annoyed at being hit, he starts taking things seriously and grabs the muscular man by the arm, landing a precise blow to his nose to leave him dazed. He asks how he can still be so cocky after being taught a lesson. Finally, the scarred one realizes his target is from the famous Crow tribe, and he notices he's surrounded after all his soldiers have been defeated. The captain suggests that the boy surrender so he doesn't lose his life in a fight that's already over. Looking around, he notices the bodies of more than 1,000 men fallen on the ground. Near the carriage, the fight is also close to ending, with the sorceress delivering powerful blows, which makes the boy argue that victory still doesn't seem to have been handed to either side, and he prepares a powerful attack on the ground, creating a curtain of smoke, giving him the perfect opportunity to vanish and leave everyone behind. At the same time, a masked man uses a trumpet to call even more comrades. The orders are for everyone to withdraw from the battlefield and regroup somewhere else. This surprises the Holy Knights, who don't understand what's happening. It seems the leader has given up on this battle and fled. To prevent this from happening again, he asks them to follow them and return as soon as possible. Finally safe, he asks if anyone was hurt, but everyone is fine. As she steps out of the carriage, the girl seems very tired from everything that happened, cursing at her warriors because she ordered them not to get hurt in this battle, stating that she almost died because it is very difficult to use God's blessings. Night is falling in the desert, while the thousands of soldiers march somewhere. In the background, the two scouts are following them silently. Realizing that all these men are heading to the sacred place of Zarahan, a magical tree lights up the entire sky over the city. In the village corridors, the leader is walking after fleeing in fear. He is approaching a large manor to announce the latest news. Upon entering the place, he notices the leader of the Black Mages who also fled, becoming frightened when he realizes the man didn't die in the middle of the fight and could expose him. With a single blow, he defeats the man who abandoned the battlefield as punishment. This frightens the other mages, who wonder why this happened, but the boy warns that the bald man abandoned his comrades on the battlefield to save his own life. This leaves the bearded man speechless, wanting to know whether the scarlet crystal was found. Upon learning they still haven't found it, the hooded one yells, asking if they know how important this is to the plans. This irritates the man, who tells them to keep their mouths shut if they can't control themselves. After all, if they really want that item so badly, they can try to find it themselves. Arguing that he also wants to find it, but values his life above obligations. Everyone gets irritated by this answer, and asks if the boy wants to go to heaven. Knowing his abilities, he threatens everyone and says they can try. As he leaves, he says that when they try, they should fear the lives that will be lost. This angers the hooded one, who asks whether the leader will let the boy leave after all that talk. Impatient, the old man orders the ritual to begin, even with the most important item absent. Looking at the dead bald man's body reflects that greed is human nature. Then he begins to charge the room with his powerful purple magic, making all the lackeys curious about what is happening. Meanwhile, the defeated man's body is being dissolved by the magic until it becomes bones. At last, the old man declares that it is in this malice that the world's great darkness resides. With a smile on his face, he declares that everyone must step into the darkness forever, frightening all the men, who ask the elder to spare them from defeat. Unfortunately, he does not listen to them and carries them to another plane. The city's soldiers, who are on watch, wonder if something happened, because they notice the noise as someone approaches from afar. They eliminate the two of them easily. Silently, the infiltrators begin to approach the city to investigate better what is happening. In the distance, the Saints group approaches, with the captain leading everything. That same dawn, they continue to watch the city, taking out more enemies in the process. The question on their minds is how these people found the city. However, their opponents realize there are far more enemies than they thought, and afraid, they wonder whether they should call in a reserve team. In the middle of the crowd, someone starts shouting that the enemy has appeared. As they fight, seeing everything from afar, the bearded man is startled because he doesn't understand what's happening. From a distance, he notices that the one commanding the attacks is the paladin Mario. The two opposing teams keep clashing, each wanting to come out victorious. In the middle of the fight, someone shouts the warrior's name and gets his attention. As he approaches, Albastos piques his friend's curiosity, who doesn't understand why he is there, but they can't talk, because another mage shows up looking for a fight. At the last second, the captain manages to block the staff strike, buying time for his friend to counterattack. He says they need to talk after they deal with this violent situation. Now the plan is to clear the area, trying to eliminate as many enemies as possible. Meanwhile, at the mansion, the energies light up the entire city. This draws the attention of all the warriors, who can sense the magic from afar. Leaving the place, the old man appears in a monstrous form, with demonic eyes. As he approaches, he considers everyone around him enemies to be defeated. It is explained that, inside the house, all the henchmen were used for the ritual to grant power to the old man. At the end of the process, his body is transformed into something very bestial and inexplicable. Several explosions happen in the city, as the beast advances mercilessly. The holy knights are thrown from side to side, as if they were weak and untrained. They are easily defeated by the monster, which with each blow takes out another one. This frightens the bearded man, who wonders what kind of monster is in front of him. To finish the fight, it begins to activate a spell with its mouth toward its enemies. At this moment, the paladin Mario intervenes and prepares a powerful attack. He manages to deal considerable damage to the old man, before something worse happens. However, after being hit, the beast's own body begins to regenerate. That very second, tentacles attack and fling the boy far away. At this moment, the captain orders his colleague to fall back, because he will fight alone. Several monstrous tentacles keep emerging from the demon's arm. Without mercy, it attacks all the holy knights, wanting to absorb their bodies as well. Unfortunately, many men are defeated in the process, making the battle even harder. The tentacles are so large that they destroy part of the city. Amid the ruins, we can see all the fallen soldiers, without hope. Among them, the captain survived, but he keeps fighting for his life. At full force, the beast keeps closing in, preparing a powerful attack. At this moment, the man has only a few seconds to dodge and survive. When he closes his eyes, he realizes he was saved by a magical protective shield. As she approaches, the girl asks if he forgot the promise not to get hurt again. Fortunately, the one who appears is the saint, saving the life of her faithful squire. The little one shows up saying they couldn't just watch from afar, and came to help. Irritated, the Lord of Tentacles moves in, wanting to destroy his opponents with a single attack. Quickly, the warrior appears, slicing off the tip of one of those tails, preventing a fatal outcome. As he advances, he complains that this is very irritating and exhausting. He asks his colleague whether they weren't on the same team. The girl shows up asking her friend to save the lecture for later, because there's no time. Preparing a powerful spell, she says she wants to solve this problem as quickly as she can. She unleashes a firestorm toward the monster. The explosion is very powerful and completely engulfs the beast, dealing heavy damage. Unfortunately, it is very powerful and keeps advancing, attacking everyone. At this moment, the fighter is almost caught by the tentacles, but manages to dodge with a jump. Finding the whole fight fun, the vice captain delivers a powerful strike with his axe. He is shocked to realize the monster keeps growing tentacles from its wounds. Caught off guard, he is hurled far away by a very powerful blow. Before he is brutally defeated, protective shields form around him, ensuring his safety. Once again, the mage channels energy into her staff and casts the spell Cutting Wind toward the tentacles. However, the beast withstands it once again and counterattacks at full speed with its tentacles. To save his sister's life, the man appears, cutting through half the tentacles at once. This gives the girl enough of an opening to strike back, using the spell Firewave, causing an explosion strong enough to destroy the arena. From afar, the muscular man watches the whole fight, knowing he can live another day. Inside the bar, the bald man complains that his friend was assigned to a harder task than he deserved. To make matters worse, all the bills and documents were still in disarray, making the boy's life even harder. But the big guy believes this will be easily resolved, since his friend is skilled. This leaves the boy thoughtful, because he believes that one day he will become a general, thanks to hard work. To forget the problems, he takes a big gulp of the liquid, while challenging himself to see who will win. The man complains that he has received an apprentice on his team once again. This makes the blonde ask if he is still upset about what happened in the past. He explains that it happened 5 years ago, and that this feeling of guilt should have passed by now. Unfortunately, the bespectacled man still feels as if it happened only a short time ago. He hands over an investigation envelope about that so-called scorpion. Reading it, he finds it strange, because the target seems weaker than the scorpion's follower. After thinking, he concludes that the man may die during the operation. But seriously, he says he is already prepared for a tragedy like that, assuring that he will see it through. The warrior knocks on the door, telling his friend that it is time to eat. Upon entering, he is surprised to see that there is no one in the room. He notices something interesting on the desk. At the same time, the protagonist went to a library, irritated with the manager. Like an executioner, the same man shows up saying that his employee seems to have nothing to do, since he arrived so early. The first tasks of the job are to deal with a pile of books. His task is to organize everything by age, writing each slip by hand. In no time, all the work is finished. Once again, surprising the old man. Enthusiastic, he asks if there is anything else to do during the shift. In fact, now he needs to organize them by neighborhood similarity. To prove he is good enough, he says he will finish in no time. Time goes by while the MC does his work with hatred. A few more hours pass, and the boy finishes again, and expects to be left in peace. To make matters worse, now he needs to list the people who died this year, and cut their names out of the papers. All this work is driving the boy crazy, because he knows it is not fair. At the end of the shift, he flies out, cursing the manager with all sorts of things. Because he has various tasks to finish, he spends the night to complete them. In the background, the man watches him mysteriously. After finishing the day, he goes to a tavern to calm down. In a strange way, he says a code, alerting the bartender. Upon entering, he spots the gypsy girl once again around his room. The two seem to know each other, since the girl says it has been a long time since they last saw each other. Upon entering, he asks about some information on his target. Returning home, the sorcerer reflects that he will not be able to take this job anymore if it continues like this. At that very moment, he sees the man leaving a bar with a briefcase. As he approaches the place, he begins to remember that his gypsy friend works at the same place in secret. When he arrives at work, the pile of papers has more than doubled, making the shift even more exhausting. As he works, he curses, in his head, the manager who makes him suffer every morning. Maliciously, he thinks of a way to punish the man for putting him through this. Starting his strategy, he asks if his coworker wants a cup of tea. While preparing it, he realizes he has enough for all the employees. He summons a flower that causes stomach pains. Pretending to be their friend, he returns to the room handing out the coffees. Lastly, he leaves the contaminated drink for his manager. Not expecting to be betrayed inside his own office, he drinks the cup, letting out a cough full of red fluid, frightening everyone. The employees come closer, calling a priest, because their boss fainted badly. This was not in the boy's plans, who caused something much worse than he wanted. The next day, it is said that the infection is not fatal for the old man. One of the employees jokes that it was nothing, since newbies are not good at using magic. But it was strange, because the protagonist used magic and saved the manager from a worse condition. Everyone is impressed and says the boy is much more than they expected. In the middle of the crowd, the blonde approaches, saying he needs to have a serious talk with the MC. The group heads to the headquarters of the Order of the White Knights. In forensics, they found the plant inside Mr.'s stomach. The boy is being interrogated, and they ask if he caused the pains. When analyzing the liquid, he realizes that he did not put that in the tea in any way. Some people also said that the vomit was red after he drank the liquid. Nervous, he asks who would do such a thing. In disbelief, he asks the defendant to confess, as someone comes in through the door. Frightened, the two friends say that no one is to blame. The captain appears apologizing for the rude way his subordinate behaves. Ironically, he is rude and orders the boy to leave and not get in the way. Finally, he thanks the MC for having saved the office manager. Unfortunately, even so, he needs to continue the investigation and asks him to understand the protocol. He says they also found something else suspicious inside the stomach. Something even worse, an herbal morphine that was inside the mixture. The hero starts thinking about how to get out of this, seeing that he has been found out. Surprisingly, he admits that he is guilty, frightening the man. He explains that he has been stressed in recent days because of his boss's behavior. He lets the blonde see that it was nothing but revenge for everything. He argues that he brought these herbs from his home in the mountains, since he used them to study alchemy. The man realizes that, with his alchemy studies, the young man managed to save the injured person. Even so, he will not be able to leave the establishment, and will need to wait, according to the rules, to endure this. He asks them to give him 1 day to find the real culprit behind the crime. This scares the captain, who does not believe the trainee is capable of such a feat. However, he explains that the poison used has a slow reaction time. Understanding what that means, the blonde asks how that is possible. He explains that by wrapping the pill, the stomach only absorbs it after hours. Basically, he can find the culprit by eliminating the people capable of doing this within a short period of time. He reassures the man by saying that he already knows how to find them. Upon leaving the prison, he heads toward his objective at the tavern. He reflects that he got Big Mama's map, and that of her subordinates, in order to contact them. In one of these branches, he saw the manager visiting them on the last night of work. While he was in front of the door, a soldier appears, telling him to go into the tavern already, in the middle of the cold. He is one of the lieutenants of the Order of the White Knights, assigned by the captain. Unfortunately, he will have to join the investigation by order of his boss. The two look at the bar and prepare to continue the whole operation. Upon entering, they begin to analyze the environment in search of the suspects. Cordially, the waiter asks whether the friends want some kind of drink. Approaching, the MC says a secret code, alerting the bald man. He says he wants to eat a charcoal-roasted suckling pig. Understanding the message, the waiter says the two can follow him to a secret place. Do you want to know what is going on? The lieutenant is suspicious, but he will follow his colleague. Upon entering the room, the waiter tells them to wait until someone arrives. Not much time passes before the gypsy woman approaches, startled by the protagonist's presence. Looking at the boy, she realizes he is her friend from school, but she cannot say anything. The protagonist reflects that he is sure he has seen this woman at some point before. To begin the Macumba session, she asks what information the two want. He says he would like to know who deals with poison within this capital. Hearing that, the girl is startled, but begins to perform the magical ritual. She says she believed that a man was no longer training any disciples. To provide the information, it is necessary for the protagonist to pay 2 gold coins. Like a clever man, the boy asks his partner to pay. In the name of the operation, he asks the girl to charge the Order of the White Knights. Unfortunately, payment is up front, and that did not work. To make everything worse, he sees that the paper is being marked up with permanent ink, but the MC's argument is that he needs to do this to find the culprit behind the investigation. He notes that in the capital, there are only 36 people with the ability to use the poisonous herb. Unfortunately, a spell like that doesn't last very long because of the substance toxicity. If he investigates the suspects near the manager, only 3 remain. They are a mage named Kapol, a masked man named Dwen, and an old acquaintance, Baron. Now everyone needs to head toward the suspects' houses to conclude the investigation. The pair head toward the laboratory, breaking down the door in search of the target. A long-haired man gets irritated, asking what is going on in his study. Promptly, the hero pulls out an insignia, claiming he is from the Order of the White Knights. This makes his friend panic, realizing his crest was stolen without him noticing. He explains that they received word that illicit substances were being made in this shop. Even though the boy said he is innocent, the protagonist still needs to search the entire room. The crime of making illicit substances is one of the most severe in the capital, and the person can be imprisoned for more than 10 years. Seeing that the lieutenant is being dead weight, the boy orders him to help with the search. The two then continue looking into every corner of the room for anything suspicious. To use the poison properly, a person needs a large amount of troll digestive juice. Looking around the room, he realizes it is impossible to hide the smell of the ingredients with spells. While investigating, the scientist approaches, trying to cover something up. When he starts to suspect him, he asks him to move aside so he can see what he is hiding. The bald man says that the suspect won't be able to flee the city and will be arrested quickly. His friend says there is no reason to worry because their master gave them new identities. Suddenly, while the man is speaking, the protagonist appears from behind, by surprise. Without giving him any chance to fight back, the boy delivers a powerful kick that sends him flying away. Seeing his friend being defeated so easily frightens the preppy guy, making him nervous. At the same time, he is wrapped with tough ropes around his body. Annoyed, the MC approaches, saying that his name is now Reaper of Ashes. Paying close attention, he manages to notice that the prisoner has a golden crest inside his clothes. When he removes it, he is extremely surprised to learn where this insignia comes from. Some time passes, and a man is watching the horizon. Sitting in the chair, Scorpion asks why her friend is so nervous. Irritated, he says she is the reason he is like this, because he had to do things to save her from defeat. In fact, it was the boy who left traces, which caused all these problems. He stands up stating that they need to separate so they won't have any more arguments like this. Not wanting to lose the friendship, she asks what it would take to get rid of all the investigators. The girl startles her colleague by saying that the answer to that question is to obtain the goddess's blessing. Unfortunately, Lupino stole that item and still hasn't been found by anyone. Saying that this is terrible news, the girl says she will take care of the debt her friend left on her account. She leaves without letting the argument end, and her friend is left shouting a lot. At the same time, the Reaper is looking at the house of the great Marquis Voltini. He remembers being told that it was this man who ordered the defeat of the office manager. Nervous, the preppy guy says he only followed orders, and afraid, asks to be set free. Approaching, the hero puts on his mask and says that he deserves to be punished for the crimes he committed. Some time passes, while the warrior guarding the door doesn't know what will happen to him. Suddenly a magical powder makes him dizzy and fall to the ground, unconscious. Silently, the hero hides the body so as not to be detected by anyone else. His goal is to find evidence to prove that the Marquis is guilty of the entire crime. Inside the room, Scorpion says that this is not a place that can be invaded easily. Then she turns to her target, asking why he is in this secret place. Annoyed, the boy reflects that he didn't sense anyone inside the room before entering. The girl jokes that she also wasn't expecting any guests to visit her that day. She claims that this place belongs to her, because she arrived first. She is bothered, because her enemy is stubborn, and may regret it. The masked one reflects that it isn't worth fighting this person right now. Then he proposes a competition to see who can steal more items in the shortest time possible. But in truth, the two have the same goal in mind, and this challenge won't work. That makes the girl propose that each of them find the item the other is interested in. This leaves the MC silent, but in the end, he believes it is a fair way to do it. Within an hour, whoever gets the item faster will win the challenge. Before starting, the two look at each other, focused on their targets. Unfortunately, there was no agreement on what would happen if they went after the same item, which would result in a fight in that case. As he flies, he reflects that he needs to find as much as he can to win. On the other side of the city, the lieutenant is finally waking up from his coma. He is surprised by the captain's presence inside the infirmary. The letter left on his chest is held in place by magic, and it is impossible to remove it. There is a spell that repels poison, protecting the boy from those situations. Curious, the captain asks where the protagonist is after this operation. After they talk for quite a while, he believes that using sleeping gas was an excessive idea. If the media finds out that the police are letting a culprit go free, they will be in big trouble. The boy is curious to know how they are going to capture someone who uses sleep bombs to escape. But the captain is giving his final vote of confidence, and will wait until the end of the day. Back at the Marquise's mansion, the girl has her attention drawn by a noise. Realizing it is her opponent, she asks if he found what he needed to win. Fortunately, he got the evidence he needed to incriminate the culprit. Finally, they will begin counting the stolen items to decide the champion. Quickly, the girl creates a magical portal to another dimension. In a magical shower, she throws all the items into the air, proving that she stole much more. Arrogantly, she asks whether her friend took an interest in any stolen item. One of the items is an artifact used to go back in time, something very rare to find. Same thing, the protagonist opens his portal and takes out all the items. Surprisingly, what he stole was only valuable documents. It is said that he has a document about the ancient treasures of the continent. While reading the papers, the friends finally finish the exchange deal. Leaving the house, the hero believes he will finally be able to complete the mission. Laughing, the girl praises how efficient he was. She says he was the first person who made the deal worthwhile. Thus, she vanishes magically, leaving trails of sand in the air. On the night of the same day, the captain is startled by the presence of two culprits in his room. Appearing, the MC claims that these are the true culprits of the crime. After proving the story, he heads toward the capital's train station. Finally arriving in the city, the family gets off the train excited. The leader is eager to finally find her fugitive brother and return home. That night, he managed to hand over the criminals, leaving the rest for the knights to handle. Unfortunately, due to official procedure, he had to remain detained for a few more days. He didn't get bored because his friends visited him every day, until they wore him out. A few days passed, and the manager woke up happier than he had been before. The boy only understood what that meant later, when he took his apprentice exam. Managing to get the top score, he realizes his boss had been hiding his personality the whole time. After that, he left for the Civil Service Academy. Upon arriving at the place, he sits at his desk and notices papers laid out. Realizing it is an invitation for everyone to gather at the Green Tower, which is made of stone and is always open. After being an apprentice in the districts, he needs to start studying inside the Magic Tower. That is where all the students gather in the apprentice office. The Empire's Magic Tower is considered part of the government, where officials work, which means the continent is monitoring all magical research conducted inside the place. Thanks to that, the government can decide what kinds of research are a threat to the empire or not. Approaching, the bearded man asks how things are going for his friend, who has been through a rough time. It is a relief to hear that all the problems have been resolved and that he won't be detained for anything anymore. Upon entering the room, the teacher says that 23 towers have signed up for the exams this year. Although the most famous ones tried, there were also unknown ones, which made the Magic Alliance decide to select the students through a fair process. She says everyone will be chosen through a random draw, not by grades. This must be annoying for the MC, who has the highest grades in the school, but he reflects that luck is on his side and knows exactly what to do at this moment. In fact, he says he can see what is inside the box using his clairvoyance magic, choosing the Scarlet Tower, a place where interesting inventions are made, as it is one of the most important in the capital. The next to choose is his friend, who says he had been dreaming of this moment. Some time passes, and the three siblings are approaching yet another place. The leader asks whether the mansion her uncle is living in isn't too big for someone to live in alone. Impatient, the warrior starts to enter the house, because he doesn't want to waste any more time in this city. In a funny way, the man breaks the gate when trying to push it aside. At this moment, a loud noise draws the group's attention, and they see a burst of energy forming. From it, several soldiers emerge and surround the adventurers. Quickly, the captain gets irritated and asks who these people are who broke the gate. Afraid, the young man says he is from the Crow tribe and wants to find his uncle. In the middle of all this discussion, he explains that he broke the door by accident while trying to open it. Finally, the butler asks them to put away their weapons, calming everyone down. In fact, the news that was coming took so long to arrive that they forgot to notify the city. Night finally falls in the capital, and the city remains bustling. The masked man is in a dark alley, waiting for a friend to approach. Whoever arrives realizes that his presence was detected, even though he was hidden. The reason for being in the capital is still unknown. As he hands over a scroll, it is possible to see the muscular man saying that if the experiment works, statues will be made in honor of his colleague. He states that if his tests work, he will be reborn even better. Removing the mask, the man reveals himself and wishes him good luck on this journey. The story will now take place in the Great Scarlet Tower. The teacher congratulates all the boys who have become students of this tower. Even though it is only a week of study, they will learn various things. One piece of advice he gives is that everyone should avoid touching things they don't know in the rooms. Upon noticing this, the MC gets irritated because he arrived late for the meeting. For having arrived 10 minutes late, he will have to be punished after classes. He also says he had to do other things, which is why he was late on the first day. Besides that, it was forbidden to speak, adding even more penalties for both of them. He reflects that the nightmare he had meant something in that place. Hopefully, he believes everything will go as planned. The problem is that he will have a big chance of running into his uncle in the middle of the corridors. His plan is to have the lowest grades among the apprentices, so he can go unnoticed. The tour of the tower continues, and they are shown the place where they keep the magical devices. This is the room most visited by the students to do their projects. The mage gets irritated when he notices that one of the apprentices is already touching things he shouldn't. Analyzing the man, he notices he is very bossy, but that is exactly what he needs to be. The next room is called Chimera, the pride of the tower. In it, they study life in order to understand the future and the past. Inside the cage, it is possible to see a real chimera resting. Stopping to think, he realizes that this place looks like a zoo from a past life. After finishing the tour, the teacher heads toward a mysterious place. Knocking on the door, he asks the master if he can come in. He apologizes for having called him when he was busy. This is the tower master, who asks who is in charge of the chimera room. Fortunately, the one in control of that room is Edward, who knows a bit about the experiments. The old man's concern is that the animal is growing faster than it should, and they need to stop it beforehand. He hears that they are doing nothing to prevent it, and becomes thoughtful for a moment. And he admits that he called his friend to ask a personal question. Showing a paper from his library, he asks him to take care of a favor. Back in the classroom, the hero knocks over another important device, frightening the students, which is very strange, because he was making mistakes he didn't make before, and he claims they were just accidents. At the end of class, the MC takes a secret card out of his pocket. A careful look notices that it belongs to someone else, probably stolen. Night falls on the tower, and the boy goes on yet another one of his adventures. Using the mask, he is curious to know what is hidden inside the rooms. With the card, he gains access to a secret room. He gets excited when he notices a very rare magical rune on the continent. He says he has never seen anything like it before, and must save it for later. Suddenly, something catches his attention, making him hide quickly. Astonished, he notices his teacher moving the chimera in the middle of the night. Some time passes, and he goes to the master's room to deliver what was requested. He is shocked to notice that no one is in the room, and there is only a magical rune. Finally, the old man arrives quietly to study more about the winged lion experiment. He begins to read a scroll with focus, without explaining anything to anyone. Suddenly, the rune begins to cause some effects on the teacher. He panics, shouting that his body is going through some kind of transformation. Seeing this, the sorcerer thanks him for letting him use his body as a test subject. The chimera is also going through some transformations, and because of that, the man will be able to become even more cunning. While everything is happening, the masked one appears, delivering a kick to the innocent man. It is revealed that the girl had been following the teacher before the ritual. Cleverly, she hangs behind a window, watching everything, finding it strange what they are doing inside the Master of Mage's room. Observing the diagram on the floor, she realizes it is a dark spell they normally use. After seeing the whole scene, she moves in to fight, and she doesn't easily put the man on the ground. The old man is startled when he notices the masked one's presence, easily ruining his whole plan. Approaching, he asks what the Master of Mages is doing in his room with these experiments. Angry, he wonders why the teacher needed to be sacrificed to do such things. The energy won't stop coming out of the paper, and keeps causing transformations throughout the room. The Chimera is much more enraged, with demon eyes, wanting a fight. At this moment, a huge explosion happens at the top of the tower, scattering debris. Amid the smoke, the boy is confused, sensing a presence at his back. He manages, by a hair's breadth, to dodge the attacks coming his way and survive. In front of him, he notices an enemy with a skeletal appearance, saying it is time for divine punishment. In fact, the hero jokes that the one who deserves punishment from the gods is the skeleton, who doesn't wait a second and attacks the MC with a huge magical explosion. Dodging, he pulls out from his portal a staff and counterattacks with a fireball. The enemy is very skilled and manages to dodge the attack with just a punch. The fight doesn't stop, and the room is being destroyed by the impacts and spells. Laughing, the creature says it can't believe he is so strong, even though his experiment failed. Casting a powerful spell, he says to praise the great master, startling the boy. Once again, a huge explosion happens in the tower, destroying even more rooms. Saving himself by flying, the MC reflects that the opponent is stronger than he thought. Appearing by surprise with an energy ball, he asks if the hero is already scared. The impact hits the boy, dealing heavy damage and leaving him close to defeat. High above the skies, the skeleton says the flames of hell will bring destruction to everyone, then unleashes a blast of fire. The boy uses a protective spell to withstand all the impacts coming his way. Seeing this irritates the monster, who thought he would win the battle, and he starts advancing. To try to end the fight quickly, the protagonist charges his fist with a magic punch. Landing the blow on the skeleton's face, he damages it badly. He activates the demonic bullet magic in its machine gun version. Unfortunately, the creature also has a protective shield, and manages to block all the bullets. Even though it's powerful, his shield starts to crack, giving him little time of protection before defeat. With an explosion, he loses strength and begins to fall toward the solid ground. Luckily, he manages to land inside the tower, saving himself amid some debris. Finally, he notices his appearance when he looks at a shard of glass and is startled. Seeing that his experiment failed, he wonders why he has this face. Arriving in the room, the boy asks. The boy jokes that it took him too long to notice something obvious. Impatient, he bids farewell to the loser and continues on to finish the fight, causing an immense explosion of blue energy throughout the entire Scarlet Tower. It is explained that the man did this to gain more knowledge and a better life, doing what he was passionate about. His plan was to abandon a rotting body and be able to live forever. As he falls apart, he reflects that he had already died before the fight even began. After the intense battle, the tower begins to break apart and collapse. The students are frightened, noticing that the building is coming apart. Managing to return, the hero feels guilty, because he caused all of this. Back at the Imperial Palace, the family is gathered once again. The girl suspects she is lost, because the paths are very confusing. However, this is the only route available to travelers who want to go to a secret meeting. Unfortunately, not even one of the best hunters managed to track down the protagonist in the capital. Growing nervous, he says he will find him as soon as they start working together. The minister approaches, saying he could hear the uncle's racket from very far away. They are informed that someone destroyed the Great Magic Tower last night, frightening the man. The story returns to the Emperor's chamber, where he thanks everyone for coming. Nervous, the young man says he is honored to meet His Majesty and blessed by his presence. In a relaxed manner, the uncle says he doesn't need to keep up appearances in this place, and sits down rudely. With everyone gathered, they can begin discussing the protagonist's disappearance. Promptly, the man hands the drawn portrait of Den to the Emperor. He wonders whether Den really is the hunter's nephew, because he looks younger than he is. Stepping closer, the warrior says the portrait looks nothing like his brother, and is poorly done. The scene is comical when the uncle shows his drawing, and claims it looks exactly like his nephew. Looking at the ugly drawing, everyone in the family says it is exactly like the protagonist. This leaves the Emperor surprised to hear the praise for the drawing, and he begins to think that maybe he should postpone the meeting for later. Many people are gathered to see the destruction of the Scarlet Tower. Among them is the muscular man, who continues to maintain the mystery. Leaving the scene, he curses the MC as an idiot, while people work to rebuild the building. Explosions happen in the forest, as a girl fights against a giant rhinoceros. With her speed, she manages to dodge the attacks by jumping into the sky. Delivering a precise attack on the beast, she deals a lot of damage. Next, she uses her sharp blade to cut off the horn and make the fight easier. In the middle of the fight, she is surprised by the beast's sudden attack. Fortunately, she manages to dodge and counterattack in time to live another day. The fight is finished easily, with the beast defeated. An elderly woman approaches, asking if the young woman is tired of hunting yet. Examining the prey, she complains that the expensive hides of these animals were ruined. Hearing that, she apologizes, stating that she still isn't good enough. In fact, the old woman says that the capital's New Year festival is more important than these hunts, arguing that fighting and having fun should carry the same importance at this event. The boy apparently is sick and wonders if they are gossiping about it. Suspiciously, the two split up, something that normally did not happen before. At this exact moment, they are at the department's central council. Unfortunately, his studies at the Escalate Tower ended because of the dangerous circumstances. Fortunately, he got the grades he wanted, getting out of the danger zone. Fortunately, this places his final stage as an apprentice. National events take place here, where the department handles visits from outsiders. Besides that, the MC was training for the year-end martial arts competition. Suddenly, he knocks over the boxes to pretend he is clumsy. All his efforts are to lower his grades, receiving penalties. In the capital, the blonde is inside a royal carriage. His assistant asks if something is wrong for him to be making that face. Finally, after a long journey, he arrives at his destination. His presence is highly valued, with many paying him reverence. The place he is in is revealed to be the great temple of the continent. Worried, his butler hands an instrument to his master. He warns that this staff is the symbol of nobility, and that it is rude not to use it on important occasions like today. An old man welcomes his highness to the temple. To the boy's surprise, he asks him to follow him to a different room. This man is called Fernando, and is a known extremist in the world. Most of them hate the imperial family, which destroyed the church's glory long ago. In fact, Cardinal Fernando hid his hatred very well, and knew how to wear a mask, and the only reason the blonde came here is to attend the New Year festival, since it is the most important event of the year, and a good sign of political good faith. However, the doubt the boy has is whether the man will listen to him in the end. In the garden, two warriors continue training non-stop. The young man says his colleague is much stronger than before. Counterattacking, he says you could say the same about the other in the fight. The two strike at the same time, using their colorful magical powers. Like a professional, the warrior energizes his sword with all his strength. With a single blow, he breaks his opponent's sword and sends it flying far away, which surprises him, as he notices his companion is much stronger now. Suddenly the MC arrives, wondering why this training is happening at this hour. It is revealed that the two are thinking about entering the martial arts competition as well. Excited, Alfonso says he needs to win this duel. These people are curious to know how skilled the protagonist is with swords. Making up an excuse, he says he is tired and runs into the house. Inside a castle, the minister is irritated because the saint could not be brought. When she was in the capital, she brought a group that had red eyes. Somehow these people had a connection to the girl. It is said that it might be good for the blonde to have a meeting with these people. In the next moment, the family is gathered, preparing for something. A person is in a vegetative state in a wheelchair, when suddenly, a nurse appears, calling out the name Vibrio. Very sad, the girl begins to cry, saying it took a long time to save her colleague, stating that she feels very guilty for not being here at the moment. He needed her. In a dark room, ritualists are holding a secret meeting. Two of them complain that there was no reason to come with so few people in the room. In fact, they do not even know who organized this meeting. Annoyed, his friend replies that he is the one who announces these meetings. The old man claims he must be getting stupid with age, because he forgot. Finally, they start talking about how the Crow tribe is venturing into the monster's territory. Irritated, one of the men states that the intent to assassinate is already going too far. Leaving, he says he will come down hard if they call him to a useless meeting like this. Frightening everyone, he says he will eliminate them if that happens. The next day, the blonde is in a building wanting to meet with the saint. Fortunately, the warrior says this is easy, and that he will ask to speak with her. As he leaves, the blonde reflects that this ended up being easier than he thought. His butler asks whether he should prepare a carriage for the long trip he will have. In fact, the young man likes being out on the streets, and asks his friend to have some tea to calm down. Then he feels bothered, because his guard is watching him suspiciously. Outside, he watches the protagonist and a friend talking about the New Year festival. The man is saying that his client should have hired a different kind of mercenary guild. From afar, the prince reflects that the two must be civil workers. It is also explained that this is the busiest time of year for people like them. In the streets of the capital, the nurse is shouting for Vibrio, who has disappeared. The warrior tells Santa that it would be better to stay inside the house, so as not to expose herself, but she is desperate, and asks that they split up to find him faster. Walking through the city, she wonders where her friend is, because she needs to be safe. In the middle of the street, she notices two troublemakers looking for a fight. One of the two claims that, from the impact, his shoulder broke and demands an apology, which bothers her, because something like that is not possible. The thug approaches, intimidating the girl, and asks if her friend was lying. In exchange for the accident, the man asks for money to go to the doctor and get treated. Unfortunately, the girl is religious and does not carry money in her pockets. Strangely, the bald man says he can accept something else instead. Seeing this, the protagonist saves the girl, stating that the shoulder was not broken. With a knife, the thief threatens the hero. Discreetly, the hero places a very valuable gold coin in his hands. He did this to avoid a fight and revealing his powers in the street to everyone in the city. The bald man is confused when he hears that they need to leave and that everything is fine, Politely, the protagonist asks if the girl is okay after that scene. The two look at each other oddly and continue talking. It is possible to see that Vibrio is standing still, looking at a tree in the forest. A suspicious man approaches the girl, who is startled by his presence. Being cordial, he introduces himself and says his name is Libra. After saying his name, he asks if the girl remembers anything because of it. Unfortunately, she does not, and asks what the masked man wants to do there. In fact, he says he has a tip to give, surprising the girl. He tells her to leave the temple because if she continues, she will not be able to do anything alone. Back in the city, the hero asks if his friend is hurt. Suddenly he notices the folder in his arms and realizes that he is a civil servant. Nervous, the MC says he is not yet, because he is only an apprentice in that field. Worried, the warrior runs up to his saint. The man says they found the paladin Vibrio in the city, which leaves the protagonist confused, since he defeated her in the past. Fortunately, they say the girl only went out for a walk and is calm. When he apologizes for interrupting the conversation, he is surprised to see that the MC has disappeared. It is said that the warrior noticed the man slipping away from the scene, leaving the girl sad, because she could have asked the name of her savior. Nervous, the hero thinks he will only harm himself if he gets involved in the affairs of important people. He wants a quiet life, as a civil service worker. At the castle, the young man is startled, because the prince asked to see the great saint. It is explained that he seemed desperate, but the family was warned not to get involved in the empire's political affairs, making everything more difficult. The bad news is that the knight has already sent a warning letter to the girl, ruining everything. As soon as she receives it, the invitation will arrive at the castle at any moment. At this exact second, the door opens, and the girl asks if she is late, leaving the two siblings completely nervous. The city is very crowded with the New Year celebrations. A very important person is leaving their room to speak to the crowd. The saint reveals herself wearing a crown to bless everyone. Inside the room, the blonde man watches this scene, excited. Unfortunately, the terrorists are watching everything from afar, planning their attacks. The question they ask is how to stop Libra's actions. It is revealed that his target is the city's great saint, which makes this New Year festival a great opportunity for that objective, meaning that this is an even bigger reason to stop him, because the girl has an important role in the plans. They warn that if the saint dies, another woman will also die, but in fact many other people will go to heaven just to protect her. The crowd is gathered in the capital stadium, eager for the arena. The clash is happening at full speed, with two warriors dueling. The fight is fierce when Lee's dodges and counterattacks in equal measure. Her opponent is fast, but all the training is paying off when she dodges yet another attack, using that opportunity to knock out the opponent, winning the fight. The boy's family is happy that he managed to get another victory. From now on, the boy will go to another round and receive prizes for it. Shouting, Alice says that the prize money from the fights will go toward the birthday. Alfonso appears, warning that the next competitor is very skilled. Inside the competitor's barracks, someone says the boy fought well. A redhead shows up, joking that his opponent is humble too. Above all, it is explained that the girl who will face him is the #1 candidate to win. Her name is Rose, from the lineage of the White Armor Blood Warriors. In fact, neither of the two girls knows this supposed competitor, and they fall silent. The older sister asks why the young man isn't together with the other competitors. Nervously, he admits he was caught using magic, and ended up being disqualified in the preliminaries. This greatly irritates the girl, who calls her brother all sorts of names. Suddenly the argument stops when the new round is announced among the warriors. On one side is the rookie warrior Lisbon. His opponent is last year's tournament winner, the Great Rose of the Blood Warriors. Seeing that her opponent is nervous, the girl reassures him, saying there's no need for that. She gives him a tip to see this fight as a bit of fun. Laughing, the boy says he doesn't believe that's possible right now. Hearing that, the girl then says she'll have to entertain herself and take it seriously. With her axe, she delivers a huge strike to the ground, scattering debris across the arena. She is surprised to see that her opponent is still alive, even after all that. Praising him, she says he has very good skill. In the arena stands, the friends are surprised to see this whole dangerous scene, especially the redhead, who fears for her brother's safety in the clash. The fight doesn't stop for even a minute, and the warrior seems to be having difficulties. Casually, the girl says her opponent is doing very well for a rookie. Then, to finish it quickly, she throws a blow that is barely defended. Even though he blocked it, the damage sends him flying far away from the impact. Without mercy, the girl charges again, trying to win the fight as fast as she can. Fortunately, the knight trained a lot, and manages to dodge another attack. This deeply irritates the girl, who stops playing around and takes everything seriously. The same can be said of the boy, who focuses on dodging and counterattacking when he can. Getting a golden opportunity, he rushes at the redhead, and lands a precise strike. She is surprised to realize she was hit directly in the face. On the other side of the arena is the boy, tired but still holding on. Irritated, she asks her opponent's name in a mysterious way. Hearing the name, she praises him, and says she liked his fighting style. Activating her scarlet magic, she says she will remember her enemy's name. He gets even more nervous at the sight of this, but he can't give up and keeps trying. He advances, very eager to win the fight and be considered the best of the festival. In fact, his opponent is calm because she knows she will win with a single attack. The two stare at each other as the fight continues without stopping. Fortunately, the boy's sword is knocked away, leaving him vulnerable and defenseless. Seeing that he is without a sword, the girl asks if the fight can end now. After all, she says the winner has clearly already been decided. With no arguments, the warrior admits he lost, putting the girl at ease. Happy to have won, she says it was a good round, despite everything. The two shake hands, while saying it was a great fight. The audience is surprised to see this moving scene from afar. New round announced. The masked man is watching everything from afar. Finally, the winner will be awarded by the great saint. When the celebration happens, the girl congratulates the warrior on the clash. In the middle of the crowd, the man continues to watch everything, waiting for the perfect moment for his plan. At that exact moment, a blast of energy is launched toward the stages at full speed. To protect the holy woman, the redhead starts to act, but people panic, trying to save the saint in time. From afar, the masked man watches his plan working amid the smoke. Fortunately, Rose is powerful and manages to defend against all the attacks, which makes the old man very angry, seeing his plan be thwarted. To take part in the event, the protagonist had to submit documents at the temple. Suddenly, a loud noise happens, indicating that the last round must have ended. Inside the arena, everyone is nervous about the scene and the dangers involving the saint. As the crowd runs, the old man continues to channel energy into his staff, creating a large mud pit in the middle of the people. This magic creates a great blue fire that seems to strengthen its user in some way. One of the people notices the man behind them and is startled. In fact, because of the fire, an army of spirits was summoned. Suddenly, a soldier appears, trying to save the day, and attacks one of these masked ones. Concerned, he shouts for everyone to try to protect the saint at all costs. The army soldiers move in to begin a very dangerous clash. Unfortunately, the spirit is very strong, and with just one attack defeats its enemies. The man approaches the saint and asks her to follow him to stay safe. At that moment, a huge energy explosion ends up defeating the girl's bodyguard. The power is so strong that the fire melts the man's body. Libra approaches, stating that he has been waiting for this day his whole life. Angry, the captain steps forward to attack, asking how the man dares. With a single attack, Libra manages to knock the young man away easily. The blue fire also begins to burn his body. With nothing she can do, the girl grows worried as she sees her enemy approaching. He says the girl should follow him in secret if she wants to stay alive. Playfully, Elise steps in to attack, saying she was going to say the same thing. Quickly, the enemy manages to hold back the powerful attack with a magic shield. Knocking the girl away, he says those cheap tricks won't work on a powerful mage. As she is thrown back, Rose wasn't expecting someone so powerful, and starts to feel afraid. When she manages to dodge an explosion, she moves in to attack once again. Striking the ground with her famous attack, she causes debris across the arena. Then she dashes to his back, looking for an opening. Unfortunately, the mage is fast and manages to dodge, throwing her body backward. Seizing the opportunity, Libra activates his magic toward the girl. She is very tired, and realizes she won't be able to dodge. From afar, he watches the huge explosion that occurred, likely winning this duel. Suddenly, he is startled to notice the warrior's axe has been thrown in his direction, causing an explosion in the arena. Quickly she readies a punch, cracking the enemy's mask with the force of the blow. Angry, he prepares a ball of blue energy, saying he will send the girl to heaven. Mid-attack, he interrupts the spell, wondering what is happening, as he sees something. In the skies, he sees hundreds of white doves of peace. All of them are approaching at full speed, leaving even the spirits confused. In a low swoop, the animals fly past, piercing all the masked ones together. Because they are powerful, they manage to defeat the enemies, tearing their bodies apart. At that moment, Libra finds himself without reinforcements, and alone on the battlefield. Approaching, the MC says that now the 1v1 fight is going to be clean and fair. Masked, he asks them to explain what's going on, wanting only a summary. After all, this whole fight seems more serious than they think. The protagonist is very angry and steps in wanting to fight, making the masked man notice that the boy isn't scared at all. The truth is that fixing sacred mistakes is far scarier than going to heaven. Angry, the enemy fires an energy blast, asking how the boy dares to speak like that. Without any fear, he keeps walking, his shield protecting him from the impacts. Forming more spells, he asks if he really thinks he's going to be stopped with cheap tricks like that. The man then unleashes a powerful blast of fire at the boy, who, strong as he is, has slight difficulty holding back the impact. After the explosion, the smoke clears, and the MC is still alive. He is startled to notice the arena is empty, and that the opponent has fled. Out of nowhere, a spirit appears trying to land a fatal attack. The experienced fighter manages to dodge and counterattack, defeating it with a single blow. However, the creatures don't stop coming, and the fight continues at full speed. While dodging, the MC hears that the creature's orders are to defeat the living and spread hatred in the world. Finally, Libra orders his pets to attack and destroy the hero. Impatient, he says this is already bothering him and begins to prepare an attack. Summoning even more magical doves of peace. Using a good portion of his power, he makes thousands of animals appear in the skies, flying. The birds' orders are to get rid of all the spirits. As they did before, Once again, they pass between the bodies of the masked ones, destroying everything in their path. It doesn't take long for all the creatures to be down on the ground, like old slime. However, they seem to be immortal, because they begin to rise again. Then Libra argues that weak magic like that won't work on his followers. A horde of monsters approaches the hero, who needs to dodge so he doesn't go to heaven. In the middle of the fight, a great sacred light draws the boy's attention. This sacred magic seems to be cleansing the entire arena of curses and bad energy. It is revealed that the saint herself is fighting for her life in the battle, and will not give up. Unfortunately, at that moment, a spirit that wasn't defeated approaches by surprise. Luckily, the blood warrior saves her friend with a precise strike. Worried, she asks if the saint is okay after that attack. Without answering, the girl is serious and focused on ending her opponent's life. Activating holy magic, she states that God asked her to act in her land, and thus she declared it. Her magical rays once again undo the bodies of the cursed, in the blink of an eye. Hidden in the stands, Libra watches his beasts being defeated once again. Fortunately, the hero had already detected him and approaches from behind to apprehend the terrorist. Without giving time for conversation, the man is caught off guard by an attack from his enemy to the face. After being chained up, unable to escape, he wonders why this is happening. Begging to be released, he insults the boy, asking who he is. The masked one, tired, asks why this had to happen on an important day like this. Soldiers begin to surround the protagonist, who wonders why they have weapons pointed at him. The soldiers tell Lupino to be quiet, because he is being accused of attacking the church. They claim that besides injuring Bishop Fernando, he also defeated Paladin Mario. This leaves the boy confused, because he doesn't know who these soldiers are talking about. After all, with his nerves on edge, the man asks if the boy is going to keep pretending he doesn't know what he did. At last, he recalls the fight he had weeks earlier with the masked man who tried to defeat the princess. In the background, the saint asks them to release the main character, because he saved her, and it's rude to treat him like that. Taking the opportunity, Lupino says that it really is rude to be accused like that by everyone. However, the girl shows no mercy, and says that this kindness will happen only this one time. The next time they meet, she won't allow the boy to slip out of prison so easily. Nervous, he understands the message, and says goodbye to everyone. Before leaving, he notices that Libra has mysteriously escaped his chains. At the same time, Vibrio is in his place of peace. Once again, the old man approaches with the mask cracked from the fight. The next day, the boy is sleeping peacefully in his bed, happy to finally be able to sleep in peace, because he went through a lot to become a civil servant of the capital. This being his first day of rest after very hard work at the festival. Ruining everything, the redhead tells her friend to get up immediately, arguing that they need to use the day off to explore the city and enjoy the day. When he gets up, the boy is visibly irritated by that proposal. Fortunately, he can't refuse and is carrying his colleague's purchases. The two girls are talking about buying some jewelry. It is explained that the boy is carrying so many purchases because the girl's pocket dimension is full. Reflecting, he says it's nobody's fault, and that he should have refused to help in the first place. Suddenly someone approaches, noticing Den's presence. The bald man shows up, asking what his comrade is doing at the market. While they talk, the child draws the protagonist's attention, leaving him confused. When he asks if she is the friend's daughter, it is explained that she is just the younger sister. She is his half-sister on their father's side, and her name is Arum. It is explained that the two grew up in the same orphanage, and at the moment, she takes care of the bald man's master. Politely, the boy crouches down to greet the girl, who doesn't respond. For some reason, she never spoke, but she understands everything people say around her. Mysteriously, she takes the protagonist's hand and starts making some signs on his palm. The words she wrote mean not to bother. Finally, the bearded man says it's a good coincidence that the two ran into each other, and invites him to have some tea. The redhead approaches, saying they came here to buy clothes and she doesn't want to get distracted. The protagonist is surprised to notice the presence of the warrior Escalachi in front of him. Approaching, she thanks the main character for being friends with an idiot like the bald man. Then, at last, she introduces herself, stating that her name is Rose. Night falls, and the ministers are having a meeting about the civil servant apprentices. Unfortunately, they are choosing only those who got the highest scores on the tests. Apologizing, a red-haired man says he would like to choose the first employee. His name is Glant, and he is the head of the Adventurers Alliance of the continent. Placing the papers on the table, he makes a big mystery out of saying who the approved ones are, but he reveals that Den and his friend passed the test. In the meeting room, the man says he prefers other candidates instead of those. The redhead says he knows that, but he has his reasons for choosing the two. Then the man asks him to explain the reasons to understand the hiring of the two. Then his friend says that he has never asked for anything before, begging for things to go his way this time. The way the person speaks makes the minister a little nervous. At the Imperial Palace, a girl calls Major Orpina to deliver news. Unfortunately, the Emperor heard about the difficulties in the fight against the monsters last time, but the young woman claims it was easy thanks to the soldiers, who used strategy and strength. Then the young woman starts arguing with her uncle over something trivial. Fortunately, the blonde man interrupts, because he wants to start the meeting immediately. This is a good day for the protagonist, who is practicing his dream profession. His position in the company was decided after a short vacation, and he was sent to the Adventurers Alliance around the capital. While he was reflecting that his new life was beginning, someone interrupts his thoughts. Once again, the bald man was waiting so they could go together, which is strange, because everywhere the MC goes, he is there, which makes the boy curious, asking why he couldn't go alone. Arriving at the room, they are startled to see the chairs empty in the office. A boy approaches, stating that the officers arrived very early. The three introduce themselves. The boy's name is given, and the gentleman is called Demore. He is surprised to hear the protagonist's name, becoming happy to meet him for the first time. He explains that he heard about the boy from his own mother. It is said that the young woman works as a caretaker for houses and mansions. This makes the protagonist finally remember the woman speaking in his ear. The manager arrives asking if the two friends are the company's new hires. Introducing himself, happy to meet them, he says his name is Fabiano. Asking them to sit, he states that he will be training them in this process. He says that in this room is where they prepare to register new adventurers. On the other floors, travelers who plan to stay at the office for a long time sleep. Most of them are silver rank or above. The fourth floor is for officers and knights known in the capital. Unfortunately, these people are usually away on work trips, so they never stay at headquarters. Lastly, on the fifth floor are the main office and the reception area for the guildmaster. After climbing a few flights of stairs, they realize that the entire fifth floor is protected by magic. Inside the room, a girl says that the chief still hasn't arrived, and that she cooked some food for the newcomers. The bald man is startled to see that his sister is in the room. Like any family, they start teasing each other over something trivial, for no reason at all. From afar, the MC observes the young woman, and can't believe the magical energy is coming from her presence. Fabiano suspects something, because he knows Rose is an only child, and has no siblings. Leaving, he says he will go get the guildmaster to introduce them. In the corner, the girl asks about her younger sister, wanting to know if she is safe. Curious, the MC asks if it's true that they are siblings. Surprisingly, she says no, but that they have known each other since childhood, and are good friends. Annoyed, the young woman says she wouldn't want to be friends with someone who looks so old. The funny thing is that the young woman is 7 years older than her friend, but looks young. Once again, they start arguing, and almost fighting over nothing. At that moment, the chief appears, happy to see the new officers excited. Startled, the MC realizes where the source of all that energy comes from. To make everything worse, the warrior Escalate shouts that the man is her father. Irritated, she hits her colleague, stating that he is very ugly and looks like an old man. Pretending everything is normal, the man says he is happy to see them all healthy. This scene shocks the MC, who goes cold, afraid of his boss's strength. Once again in the meeting, they ask if they need to know about the monsters that are in the territory. With this action by the chief of the Crow tribe, most of the family is in the capital's territory. This leaves the uncle surprised, because he didn't know his brother was also there. The young woman says that 2 of her immediate officers know the red dragons. Curious, the prince asks if they know the reason those people left the Olympus forest, which means that a girl is leading the Great Crow tribe at this moment. Then he asks the hunter to say why he left the forest. Unfortunately, he can't, because he has been treated as an outsider since he left the forest. A phrase that bothers the 2 boys, who didn't expect that. Back in the city, the boy asks if they found the guildmaster funny. In fact, Fabiano corrects him. The man is the chief of the entire alliance, not just the guild. This leaves the 2 friends bored, because it's a rather unimportant subject. Demore explains that he is working in accounting and funds, helping everyone in the department. Fiona is in charge of receiving people and communications. Demoshao usually takes care of supplies, and deals with the adventurers who pass through. A mustached man shows up, startling everyone, saying it's a pleasure to meet you all, and that his name is Roseraine. He has been here most of the time and is making sure to balance the hard work as manager. Then he reinforces that, if anything happens, he will be responsible for it. He asks everyone to let him know when they are having problems. The guy with glasses states that his main task is to organize people's requests, and he does that according to the most important adventurers, and depending on how difficult the task is. The 2 friends introduce themselves to the rest of the room, explaining their origins. The mustached man asks the bald guy's age, who admits he is 17, surprising everyone. Finally, they order them to return to their seats to focus on work. This is the map that marks the monsters in the territory every 6 months, and distributes them according to the areas. Milpia states that these creatures are expanding toward the capital, and she asks them to look at the number of infected sick people near those territories. Most worrying is that a man from the Blade family is in that territory. They present confidential news from the Empire about Doomstone, which is his name. According to the news, a master of mages and other people were seen with that man. Just the fact that he has left the forest will already leave several countries expecting a war, so they need to classify this information as the most secret within the organization. Big Mama's plan is to investigate what is happening inside the monster's territory. This leaves the girl confused and wondering when they should start. In the civil service, the hero needs to deal with documents and take care of supplies. One of the 2 friends will probably be assigned to stay at the reception desk. The young woman warns that the manager will be promoted and a new officer will take his post. It is also explained that the emergency work meeting happens twice a month. Normally they hire retired adventurers to be in charge. In addition, powerful protective spells activate at night so no one can break into the place. Unfortunately, the young woman believes the only one who could break in is Lupino, the experienced thief. Nervous, the boy lies, asking why the troublemaker would steal things from this place. The conversation continues when the young woman asks if he knew that the guild chief is Rose's father. After stating that he did, the young woman starts to tell another piece of gossip, but is interrupted. The two co-workers say they are in big trouble. The protagonist's uncle is in a building full of teddy bears. He was waiting for the arrival of his friend, who was the head of the alliance. The hunter complains that his colleague could have come faster because he was dying of boredom. Handing over a gift, he says Arcanta sent that, thanks to the help cleaning up the festival mess. After that, he starts to leave, leaving the redhead confused because they didn't have time to talk even for a second. Finally, the waiter arrives with tea to calm the young man, and he drinks. But while sipping his cup, he asks how long the spirit is going to keep watching him. Who, uncomfortably, does not answer and keeps staring. Moving closer, he says he doesn't like the atmosphere of this shop and asks if they should leave. Worryingly, the two talk, indicating they have been friends for a long time. The young woman is gossiping about Miss Rose's latest feats when she fought bandits. Besides dealing with the incident, she met the requirements to be promoted and became gold rank. This makes the MC nervous because she achieved a historic accomplishment in the capital. From afar, the boy watches the young woman stop talking about his colleague with a certain admiration. He wonders if he should stop his friend, because she tends to talk a lot about the Scarlet Warrior. Unfortunately, Fabian says that listening to her talk doesn't hurt that much. Back to the MC, he is out of patience, listening to Fiona talk non-stop. It bothers him so much that it feels like his ears are going to start oozing broth. The woman in front of him is a total fan of the Scarlet Warrior, and knows everything about her life. To get out of this situation, he says that Fran is Rose's childhood friend, making Fiona leave, thanking him for the information. The coworker approaches, praising the protagonist's idea. He says that Miss Scarlet's name is forbidden to be spoken inside the office. After all, when they start talking about her, Fiona can't stop until she goes home. However, the nerd knows a unique way to stop the young woman from talking. To do that, the MC needs to go to Rose's private room. He recalls that the only way is to make Fiona talk directly with the young lady. That's because the warrior doesn't like it when people talk about her story in front of her. Leaving, the MC has the goal of being left in peace. He is surprised to notice that there is no one inside the empty room, when suddenly, he feels someone move into the master's room. Afraid it might be a thief breaking in, he decides to check, just to be safe. On the bed, the warrior is hugging one of her teddy bears in a friendly way. He asks whether the so angelic one is proud of her promotion tonight. The scene becomes uncomfortable when the girl notices the protagonist watching from afar. Embarrassed, the girl says that all of this is a misunderstanding and it's not what they're seeing. As he leaves, the hero says he didn't see anything, and that the conversation can continue between the two of them. This lack of interest makes the girl very irritated, because she didn't want to go through that embarrassment. Suddenly, she tries to land a powerful punch on the boy, who dodges in time. Being very strong, she orders that they talk and resolve this situation. In a building, the girl says she's sure the boy already knows what she's going to say, since he's a student. She explains that her father resolved an intrigue between the Empire and the Dragon Tribe by traveling through the Valley of Mephisto, one of the world's forbidden regions. In addition, the girl explains that he also led a battalion against the enemy regime and destroyed its headquarters, being the man who created the Black Buffalo Squad, one of the most powerful in the capital, managing to lead all those men on missions against monsters to save people. After all that, the man became a legendary doll maker in the city, which makes the MC uncomfortable, realizing he's sitting through a history lesson, just like in the morning. In short, the girl says she did well in the competition and completed her objective, saving the saint in the end. To wrap up the conversation, the hero understands that the Adventurers Alliance praised the woman for her performance, which makes her uncomfortable, recalling the scene the man saw earlier in the room. Fortunately, he understands why she was celebrating so much in her room. With a reputation to uphold, the girl asks him to keep it secret and not say anything about it. However, to do that, the hero asks for a favor in return, surprising his friend. Near the end of the night, the girl is surprised to learn that Fiona knows her whole story. The bearded man admits that his sister saved her because she would listen to the stories all day long. Mysteriously, the girl states that she came because she wants her brother to accompany her. Fabian shows up saying that this tradition for newcomers is really bad and that he doesn't like it. Then the two start arguing a lot, surprising the two friends, who hear everything. When they finish their work shift, the three head toward a secret place. Excited, the girl tells them to get ready because they're going to enter a casino inside the city. The place is full of food and a band dedicated to entertaining the customers. Entering the casino, the two friends feel uncomfortable because they've never gambled in their lives, which makes the girl wonder why they're standing around like idiots in the hall. With bags of coins in hand, she calls the two to have fun and hands one to each of them. Their job is to spend all that money in the casino and try to win as much as they can. Leaving the bald guy alone, Rose says she'll play alongside the protagonist. the friends approach a table with masked people and important figures. Then she admits it's been a very long time since she played a card game. Sitting at the table, a woman watches everything attentively. Removing her mask, she gets excited to see her friend after a long time and asks to play around together. This is the saint who, surprisingly, is betting in a casino. She explains that it's been a long time since she's been able to enjoy moments like this, and that she has to keep it secret. Seeing the protagonist surprises the girl as well, reminding her of when she was saved. The redhead also gets curious to learn that her friend has already crossed paths with the saint. Finally, the dealer announces that the poker game is about to begin. He starts shuffling and laying out all the cards on the table. The boy isn't very interested in the game, but he's there to strengthen friendships. It all begins when they take the cards in hand, and the boy has an ace, which means this girl probably has other important cards in her hand. If the saint is lucky, she has other great cards that can win the game easily, leaving poor Rose with the worst cards on the table and the worst hand. Which is funny, because the MC's eyesight is so fast he didn't need magic to cheat at the game. Unfortunately, he needs to lose a few so he won't look suspicious, and he'll start off gently. A short time passes, and almost all the casino chips are in the boy's hands, which makes the saint joke that her colleague is taking a lot of chips from the game. In fact, the redhead is a little jealous, because he had terrible luck in those games. Politely, the hero returns the chips that were lent to him at the beginning of the game so he can keep quiet. In fact, he gives a little extra as payment for the friendship, making the girl cry. With much more money in hand, the warrior Escalade shouts for the game to start once again. During the break, the protagonist goes to eat a little inside the casino. At this moment, the saint warns that she has to leave, because she will get in trouble if she comes back late, stating that she had a lot of fun and that she would like to go out again with her friend if she gets the chance. Watching the young woman leave, he reflects that he did not expect to run into her in that place. The redhead hears some snippets of her friend's conversation and asks why he is acting so suspicious, and they realize that their friend, the bald guy, is nowhere to be found. Tired, the girl realizes where her brother is and says she was going to take them to that place anyway. The security guard waves to Rose and says they have not seen each other in a long time. Whispering, he asks if she has heard the news about a new talented boy in the capital. The day is already very exhausting for the protagonist, who only wanted to go home and sleep. This part is very suspicious, because it certainly does not seem to be part of a betting casino. Being honest, the warrior says that this is the place she wanted to bring them to in the beginning. When, suddenly a siren and many screams draw the MC's attention, and he is surprised to see his friend running. Arriving there, they realize it is a large underground fighting arena that takes place secretly in the city. In this hideout, people bet on a fighter, and if they guess right, they win money from the victory. Unfortunately, this is illegal, but none of the spectators will talk to the authorities. This arena is also the burial place of retired adventurers and old mercenaries. Most of the fighters retired because of injuries and do this to survive. It is explained that this is why there is a tradition of bringing new workers to visit the place, to show the young that, no matter what they are facing, they can end up with a terrible fate. Once again, they worry about finding the bearded man, who does not show up anywhere. At this moment, the new round is announced, with a rookie fighting in the arena. Hearing this, the girl is surprised to notice the fighter, who will be in the arena this time. Realizing that her brother is wearing a mask, they wonder why he is doing that. On the other side of the casino, it is explained that the bald guy lost all the chips in 5 minutes. His colleague jokes that in this game, you need to use your brain and not bet randomly. A slick-looking guy shows up advising Fran to accept that it is normal to lose and win in equal measure. Kindly, he says he can help if she needs a little more money for the game. We then return to the arena, where the announcer is introducing the rookie. The bald guy will fight under the name Earth Toppler. Behind the curtain, the slick-looking guy is irritated because his friend still has not gone to fight, arguing that he owes him a lot and needs to win so he does not spend his life in debt. As he comes out and enters the arena, he notices his powerful opponent and gets scared. There are no rules in this fight, and if they want to survive, they need to shout that they surrender. Finally, the battle begins, and the veteran strikes with intensity. In the first seconds, he manages to land a powerful punch on Fran's face, which hurts. Unfortunately, the second time, the bald guy manages to block the attack in time and save himself from defeat. This makes the veteran lose patience, and he goes for a powerful kick, sending his opponent into the bars. From afar, the MC is worried, while the slick-looking guy shouts for them to fight for real. The veteran does not know why the man is there, but this is a competition, and he needs to win, at any cost. Charging into the fray, he advises his enemy to surrender, so he will not leave so badly hurt. At this moment, the bald guy begins to focus and dodges, landing a powerful punch to the veteran's chin, surprising him with the impact. It took only one punch to defeat him and end the fight once and for all. Finally, the announcer declares the victory, firing up the whole crowd. People in the crowd say they love Fran, without knowing him, without the mask. The two friends find out what happened, and it was caused by a debt. It is explained that the bald guy owes 2 gold coins, the equivalent of 20 years of wages, in the civil exam. Because he is rich, the hero says he has money saved, and can pay this debt in exchange for a favor. Rose is happy about it, and says her brother has a very loyal friend. However, this is not a favor, because the hero has a lot of money stored in his pocket dimension. After saving him from the fight, the warrior pulls him by the ears as a form of punishment, arguing that he's too old to be getting into this kind of trouble anymore. When he's left alone, to make matters worse, she asks the protagonist to come closer, and also hit his friend, to prove this was an idiotic decision. Comically, the two friends team up to hit the bald guy as hard as they can. The slick-haired guy shows up irritated, asking what they're doing to his warrior. With no patience at all, he orders the two veterans to fight the friends to get the property back. However, the bald guy is thrown into the wall with ease, leaving the slick-haired guy surprised. The warrior asks once again if it was the blonde guy who put her brother into a lifelong debt. Our video ends here. If you liked it, leave your like. See you next time. Bye bye.